tumbled as much as 1.6, ended the day in the green by 1.38. The Dow Jones Industrial Average clawed back
$25 a month on the same service the big guys are overcharging you for. Just dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe. You'll also save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 to save an additional 50%. Thanks, James.
While the eyes of the world focus on the war in the Middle East, strikes continue in the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
It's the all-too-familiar sound of Ukrainians cleaning up after yet another Russian strike. This time on Dnipro in central Ukraine. 10 people were injured. The war in the Middle East has drawn international attention away from Europe's biggest conflict since World War II, as U.S. brokered talks between Russia and Ukraine languish. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
China reports its exports rose almost 22% in the first 2 months of the year, while trade with the U.S. contracted. Surging exports of computer chips and autos helped drive the increase. The export figures released by China's customs agency are much better than economists were expecting, and they far exceeded the 6.6% growth in December. Townhall.com. One Super Bowl MVP is joining another to headline a wave of big deals to open NFL free agency.
Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker III is the new running back for Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, and Miami settled on Malik Willis for a reset at quarterback after releasing Tua Tagovailoa. The Chiefs and tight end Travis Kelce were nearing a deal to return for his 14th season. Indianapolis is keeping its top free agent in receiver Alec Pierce. Fellow wideout Mike Evans is joining the 49ers. Jalen Phillips is joining Carolina, and Dallas added Rashawn Gary. The deals were among those reached on the opening day of NFL free agency. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
Team USA advances in the World Baseball Classic, beating Mexico 5-3 in Houston. The U.S. improved to 3-0 and will meet Italy later today. More on these stories, townhall.com.
On Salem News Channel, principled voices are shaping today's conversation. Scott Jennings brings clarity to the toughest debates. Josh Hammer's blistering commentary puts politics and culture on trial. And Alex Marlowe's insight connects us to what matters most. Watch anytime on Samsung TV Plus, Pluto TV, or find us on your screen at snc.tv. 3 new shows, 1 powerful lineup. Salem News Channel, across America.
The more you listen to your kids, the closer you'll be. So we asked kids, what do you want your parents to hear?
I feel sometimes that I'm not listened to. I would just want you to listen to me more often and evaluate situations with me and lead me towards success.
We're not adults, so just be there and listen. I just want someone to yap to. And I just feel like I'll be fine if someone just hears me talk.
You're doing a really good job. And I don't think I tell you that enough. And I know sometimes we get into it. And it's just hard on both of us. But try to understand me more. And I'll try to do the same.
Listening is a form of love. Find resources to help you support your kids and their emotional well-being at sounditouttogether.org. That's sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal.
All right, back with you on a Tuesday here on the Dave Ellswick Show, a Tuesday morning. Let me get my... There. I got to fight with my microphone. Keeps going back. Well, I was told Friday this would be fixed Monday.
Yeah.
It's not fixed yet.
Well, I didn't see anything else moved around. I think Sean's not feeling well.
Yeah, he had COVID last I heard. So he wouldn't be back until middle of this week at the earliest.
Yeah.
So it's the way it is. But you know what that means? That means we got extra time to bring in Ryan Norris. And we did. Americans for Prosperity is here.
Good morning.
And we're going to talk the American economy and talk also about Arkansas and what the economy here is looking like. The oil just tumbled now and is fallen below 100 easy. Reported on NBC. Check out these differences in oil now. You should start seeing prices come down at the pump here over the next couple of weeks. After soaring by as much as 32% overnight to $119 per barrel, the price of U.S. crude plunged to around $86 per barrel by 4 o'clock yesterday, 3 o'clock our time yesterday afternoon. International Brent crude oil also dropped by more than 3.5% to less than $89 per barrel. U.S. equities markets also sharply reversed. The S&P 500, which had fallen by as much as 1.5%, ended the day higher by almost 1%. The NASDAQ composite, which earlier tumbled as much as 1.4%, ended the day in the green by 1.38%. And finally, the Dow Jones Industrial Average clawed back a more than 880-point drop, dropped 880 points in the morning. And by the time it closed, the wrap-up of the trading day, it was higher by 239 points. So you had an 1,100-point turnaround. Mm-hmm. So evidently people are understanding that what Trump did isn't going to hurt oil.
I mean, we said it would be temporary.
Yeah, I know. But markets are
emotional.
Just like, yeah, they are. And that's why you should never trade. You never trade when you're
emotional.
Got your emotions involved with it, because
like rule number one.
Yeah, emotions and money don't mix real well.
Nope, that's how those people make money. Those people ain't got no emotions.
Yeah, well, same thing. If you got a 401k, I hope you just wrote it out. You didn't, jump on your supplier or your platform and say, move all my money into this stock or something.
Yeah.
Or move me out of, carbon-based energy, because you made a very bad mistake yesterday. So how are you today, Mr. Norris?
I am well.
Do those bounce back numbers make you feel good?
Well, I mean, again, I try to be unemotional, so no. I just look at it and say, we'll see what happens next, because just as easy as it went down, just as easy it went back up, it'll go back down again. So I don't, I do trade a little bit here and there, very small amounts in the stock market. I pay attention to that kind of thing and trying to predict the future. The thing that is most important to long-term investment is, of course, consistency and the ability to kind of plan business once that. The world is kind of in flux right now with the Iran situation. Yep. We don't know where that's all going to go. And to be honest, just individually, personally, it's hard to trust anything anymore. News-wise, it's just really tough, because there's an article I saw yesterday where it's like hundreds of U.S. soldiers captured and killed, or whatever. And I'm like, I started checking sources, and I'm like, oh well, this is not that.
Where was that?
Happening.
Korea.
Like, okay. I'm just like, that's not. But you got to be really discerning around speech nowadays, and just measuring that out and making sure that it makes sense. I start being very skeptical of anything, one, that sounds too good to be true and too awful to be true. I just really start reading it and I'm like, oh, okay, look, there's got to be the truth somewhere out there. It's hard to trust. It's hard to figure out where to get your good information, other than the Dave Ellswick show.
Well, speaking of trusting, this morning, 5 minutes ago, Mother Jones puts out Trump's Iran's war is driving up energy prices. Here's who profits.
Yeah.
But they didn't realize last night that already the stock market is
Yesterday
already gone down.
Making
It
a correction.
didn't have to wait to get to the nighttime.
Right.
I mean,
They didn't do their
afternoon.
research.
It highlights, though, underscores what we've always talked about: energy abundance and independence as much as possible from the rest of the world. As much as possible. I mean, oil and energy is considered it's a world commodity, and you can trade it across the planet. But
Unless you're Iran.
Yeah, unless you're Iran, then you can't trade it across the planet. You can just send it over. I think their largest was it China is their number one, I think, exporter.
Yeah,
for the
China,
world.
Russia, and Venezuela.
But there's lots of moving parts going on. We're about to head into midterms, and the issue is affordability. So decisions will probably be made politically to make sure that the people aren't feeling too beset upon by prices and all of that as we move into the midterm period. Just the nature of things goes back to Carville back in the 90s. It's the economy, stupid. And so if we can keep the economy up and running, then we will then maybe it's a better midterm for the incumbent party. But still a lot of time between now and then, and we'll see how this all plays out.
Yeah, don't start believing the polls until you get into late September. Then you can start looking at them and going, those may be pretty solid.
Yeah, could be. And it's there's only really one poll that I take 100%, and that's the election day poll.
Yeah.
I don't. The polls, it's skewed. Who are they calling? Who are they asking this information?
I mean, you can.
And how are they asking it?
Yeah, and you can curate all that. And there's just no perfect way of running a poll. We run polls, and we try to be as scientific as possible in the way that we approach that. But it's still, there's always going to be the.
And I know that that's true because I walk by your all's place of business anytime that I leave the station, and everybody was wearing lab coats.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. By the time I get done paying my lab coats and my scientists, it's a wash.
Yeah. You're not depending just on
throwing a little baby Billy meme out there.
I didn't see any little cups with tea leaves in the bottom of them. So you guys do a good job.
Well, we're conducting some polling right now that hopefully we'll have releases next week regarding taxation and how people feel about the state income tax. So that's you'll probably hear it here first at the Dave Ellswick show. When
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was talking about like political polls. Like, who are you do you love President Trump? You know what I mean? Who are you asking?
Yeah. Well, there's that, but I pivoted to something I'm more interested in, which is the income tax.
No, those kind of polls are different because you can ask anybody across the board and that answer,
Yeah.
Well, the one that carries the most weight for me is real clear politics, because they take about 5 of the polling companies and look at what the aggregate median is for them, and that gives you a pretty good idea. They still miss it by a lot. I mean, they missed the election last year by almost 3 points.
Yeah,
that's outside.
And I was on it.
Oh, they called you?
And I was on it. I was accurate. No, they didn't call me. They should have called me because I would have told them.
Well, it's going to be interesting this November if people will vote in their best interest.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to emotion, and it comes down to how many Democrats, like little kamikaze pilots that they are, try to crash their plane into the U.S. economy.
Did you see the one I sent you about the woman in North Carolina running as a Republican with full hijab, face covering, all that? Muslim woman said that she has seen the light. How you see the light under that thing, I don't know, but.
Oh, she's seen the light and supports Trump now?
No, well, yeah, she says she's a Republican now. I'm sorry, but Islam and Republican that doesn't mix at all.
Dissonance.
Well, it depends.
Like it literally doesn't mix.
It depends on who you're talking to, because Islamists can be just like Baptists and say they are one thing but live a different life.
Well, the Republicans are saying that she's just trying to infiltrate the Republican Party.
Could be. I mean, you have, when you start seeing one party, the majority, you start having, some loose interpretations of that party platform in individuals that run for office under that party banner. And so it just kind of comes with the territory, particularly when you have states, again, that have super majorities that are particularly red. Not so much, probably not so much on the blue side, maybe a little bit on the blue side, but I don't know of anybody that I would consider to be in a blue state that's a super majority blue state that runs to the left that's actually right. But you do see them in majority red states that are to the left that run as if they're right. Mm-hmm. And that messaging can sometimes win when you look at, but not even that. I'm just saying, I look at House District 70, the Bo Renshaw seat. AFP worked hard on that seat, and Pulaski County turned out 3-1 Democrat. Voter energy seems to be on the Democrat side right now. But when you look at some of the things that are being run on by the candidate, a lot of them are talking points from the Republican Party. I mean, they're just smaller government out of your business, those kind of things that resonate with people.
Yeah,
lies
that they've never followed
because they're Democrats.
Well,
30 years.
It's not lies. It's selective. There's certain things they don't want government involved in, just like Republicans have certain things they don't want government involved in.
Yeah, but they don't want government involved in telling you can't have a sex change on your kid.
Yeah, but again, that's them running on an issue that they connect at times. Be like, hey, I don't want government telling me what to do. Do you want government telling me what to do? Okay, on that very basic common ground, we should be, allied together on this. I'm just saying this is a strategy, but what's crazy is that
people believe them.
Well, there's the belief part, but everyone should agree that they don't want government involved in these things and come to some kind of common ground. But that's not the way it is. It's like we want government involved in certain things as party A, and party B wants government involved in other things, and the people are in the middle trying to make the decision about which one's going to stay out of my business the most. Mm-hmm. And that's where political season gets interesting.
Well, and that's where the Democrats have no solid foundation to stand on, because they always want the government to get involved. Always.
Unless it's like, I can't have surgery. I can't give my kid a surgery at 12 to become a boy, or, you have to demand in government that we put they or them on our email signatures, which I used to get emails from my other job. I get emails on that, and I was like, that's so ridiculous. That is so unprofessional. I don't need to know if you're her or him.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it
was mandatory under the Biden administration.
Well,
and a lot of the schools and things like that.
I'm just getting to the age to where if I don't agree with it, I probably just don't go along with it.
Well, you still have to see it, and it's still ridiculous. And you're like, I don't want to work with this person now because that's so unprofessional that you would even put that on your email.
There's a lot of things that I don't like and don't agree with that I'm okay with seeing, because this experiment requires plurality and diversity. That's what it's all about. Before it was any other demographic tensions out there, that we see presently, it was the Irish, it was the Catholics, it was the et cetera at the founding of the country. It's like, we don't want to vote for a Catholic. They listen to the Pope. And, and it wasn't until we had John Kennedy, right?
Yep. That broke the wall.
It broke the wall down.
I'm sorry, but I'm not listening to a they or them.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. But I'm just saying that
Catholics,
is that if you are in the American experiment and in this space of plurality and diversity, there's things you have to listen to every now and then that you don't necessarily agree with. And as long as you're allowed to not agree, and as long as you're allowed to extract yourself from those kind of environments, then I think, that's fine. What I get frustrated with is when I'm not allowed to disassociate myself. We have freedom of association in this country to associate with whom we want to associate. That is a protected right in our Bill of Rights. So there are times and there are things that I don't agree with that I wouldn't legislate against, nor would I throw someone in jail or fine them or any of that, even though it's 100% opposite of me. But that's the experiment, is that this experiment, that we've started, and we're still in the middle of it because we're 250 years this year. That sounds like a lot, but compared to other civilizations,
compared to Europe,
it's
a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, I remember being I was in Budapest, and I'm standing on the I was in Prague, standing on the St. Charles Bridge, and the bridge is hundreds of years older than my country. And so we have to keep that kind of in perspective. This was a new experiment where it's like, can people from different backgrounds, ideologies, faiths, etc., come together, agree on individual liberty to where the individual is the most important component of the society, and be able to agree to disagree and to agree on each other that has rights. And that's tough because everybody's got an opinion. Like, if you let me be dictator for a day, and I can make the world a better place. No one's going to make everybody's life better from just your one perspective. There's too many people involved now.
All right, let's take a break. First break for the show here on the Dave Ellswick Show, 101.1. The Answer.
In the world of generators, trust, not marketing, defines success. Northside Power is the trusted name when the power goes out. We're ranked number 1 in generator sales, service, and installation. No gimmick and no side hustle. No matter your home's needs, Northside Power installs, service, and monitors generators 24/7. When the power goes out, excuses don't keep your lights on. Experience does. That's Northside Power. Generators isn't something we do. It's all we do.
In his new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, Dinesh D'Souza brings the new Middle East into focus.
Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be somehow tied to this place?
At long last, we have peace in the Middle East. Israel and Christians are coming together in a way they have never been before.
But is this the end of Hamas and radical Islam? The Dragon's Prophecy is powerful, prophetic, a must-see movie. Now available on Amazon, YouTube, and iTunes.
Let's be honest. The National Symphony may not be in his future, but he wanted to try violin. So you said yes because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more about keeping your kids safe in your vehicle at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Join me weekdays for This Morning, America's First News. Hear the stories you'll be talking about and searching for all day as we go beyond the headlines and above the chatter with your first look at breaking news, money, Washington politics, technology, entertainment, entrepreneurship, and sports. We explain why stories matter. That's why we are referred to as the most important and relevant radio program. Join us weekdays for This Morning, America's First News.
The Dave Ellswick Show is back. 101.1. The Answer.
All right, 7:26 on a Tuesday. And Ryan Norris has sashayed his way into the studio. And he's ready to share a lot of stuff.
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever sashayed in my life.
Now, next week, you've got Grover coming in.
Yeah, Grover Norquist is going to be in Arkansas. And we have a series of events with him that we're really excited about. So he will be with us in Northwest Arkansas for a public event at there in Bentonville. And excited to meet with lawmakers up there and grassroots up there to talk through the pathway to zero income tax. So that's gaining momentum. I think we're at 40 plus lawmakers who have signed on saying, hey,
you picked up another 4, huh?
Yeah, about 4 or 5 just last week. Great conversations with leadership. Secretary Hudson came out in his testimony before the budget committee last week saying, hey, cutting taxes is going to be a number one priority for the governor. And they're going to start setting strong targets for cuts and then building the budget around it. So there's opportunity for both tax reform and budget reform, which dovetails together to mean
that you're going to have more money in your pocket.
Cheaper government, less tax dollars taken out of your checks, and more returned to you. So that's the goal. So now we had a great meeting in Fort Smith. Concerned citizens there who care about this issue. Met with some business leaders there who are like, "Hey, yes, let's do this. This is going to be great." I mean, it's an effective if you cut taxes to zero. Which, by the way, this was yesterday. This didn't even dawn on me till yesterday. But do you know that student athletes at the University of Arkansas do not pay income tax?
Oh, I could
because they testified in budget committee, the chancellor, saying, well, if we did, then we would not get the students because they would go to zero tax states like Florida, Tennessee, or Texas. And well, that applies to everybody. There's talented individuals that we need here in the States, not just sports, but in business and commerce and industry that we need here. And zeroing out the income tax would be attractive to them as well.
Sure, it would be.
So we walk this down over time. But already we have Arkansans that are affluent. They're making more money than the average Arkansan who are paying a zero income tax, just so that we can have a good sports program at the University of Arkansas. So if you believe in equality under the law, that's not right. I'm not begrudging them that per se, other than the fact that I don't get that opportunity. And I think that there should be equality under the law. And why would there be a carve out for this and not a plan to get the rest of the state taxpayers down to zero? So that was one thing that popped last week that kind of got me a little bit, Dave.
Well, the reason it is that those are the people who go,
yeah. And so there you are in the stands, paying your hard-earned money to buy your ticket to be there at the game, and those you're cheering for are paying zero taxes while you're being taxed on your labor. So that additionally, we've had some great conversations with Concerned Veterans for America, an organization associated that we've been associated with for a while, but they are now interested in Arkansas because they see how with our military families, if they had more in their paycheck, that would be a net positive for them, be an effective pay raise. When you're able to have more net with each check, that gives you more resources to spend what you need to spend for your family needs.
All right, time to get to some more opinion. Let's do that.
Transfer can help with an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of 5-star reviews. They are the only ones I trust. They will provide you with a guaranteed solution to exit your timeshare. Please call Lone Star Transfer, 844-284-4861, or visit LoneStarTransfer.com. On this Tuesday, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth acquitted himself pretty well on 60 Minutes. CBS correspondent Major Garrett's questions were fact-based and fair, not snide or leading. And Mr. Hegseth answered them with one exception. He gave no tips on battle strategy or guessing how long the conflict will last. Secretary Hegseth usually comes across as a bit haughty, and there were flashes of that. But overall, it was a serious interview, one that benefited the country, and Mr. Hegseth was clear in what he said. The overall coverage of the Iranian attack veered into politics almost immediately. No surprise. That's what the media sells these days. Ideology, not information. In addition, there is an enormous press interest in making President Trump look bad. We all know that, and the strategy remains intact. Somehow, Major Garrett got away from the political pandering and provided a throwback interview of importance. Good for him. The country needs a lot more of that approach. As for Iran, battle strategy should not be discussed. That's foolish. And no one knows how long the conflict will last. Back in a moment. More Americans are switching to all-family pharmacy because getting medication should not depend on your insurance company telling you no. If you already know what works for you and want real medical freedom, you have to choose the right pharmacy. All-family pharmacy handles everything, including the doctor's prescription, ships right to your door. So please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/bill. Use code BILL10. Save 10% on your next order.
That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
The news never stops, and neither does your schedule. That's why we're here, keeping you up to date with all the biggest stories of the day. We're 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Don't miss cutting-edge coverage of daily news from an America First perspective on the Alex Marlow podcast on the Salem Podcast Network.
Everything I'm seeing from the public is that public does not like the idea of just pure welfare and charity being done for people who are able to work and are not willing to work. So able-bodied people have got to get back to work.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com. Don't miss out on the latest news. Operation Epic Fury is here, and we're giving you the inside information. Make sure you're listening for all the details on Operation Epic Fury, right here on 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. The conservative voice of Arkansas, the Dave Ellswick Show on 101.1 The Answer.
All right, about 25 minutes until 8 o'clock. We've got a guest joining up with myself and Ryan. And who is this, Ryan?
So this is Molly. Molly is with us from our Constitutionally Limited Government Priority Initiative, and she kind of heads up the policy research and kind of helps direct all the planes across the state regarding potential threats to free speech. And so I wanted to invite Molly on because, again, we're in political season and speech is necessary and lots of conversations and opinions about it. So thought that we'd come on and kind of chat a little bit about that. She also covers issues regarding like the surveillance state and government's the ability to spy on you and things like that.
That has a lot to do with free speech.
That has a lot to do with it. But good morning, Molly. You there?
Good morning. Yeah, great to be with you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for calling in. I know it's been a busy couple of weeks for everybody, but you know, one of the thoughts that I have, Molly, is I read all the time about Europe, and I'm very interested in the speech laws that are.
Yeah, it's not good over in Europe.
It's not
in UK, Canada, or any of them.
And you know, America is unique in a way with its enshrinement of free speech and freedom of association into our founding documents. And, you know, so Molly, knowing that that's kind of an important issue, and we have this contrast of Europe versus the United States, you know, just tell everybody a little bit about what you do and what you focus in on, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, you're certainly right about the Europe situation. I keep thinking I kind of have a handle on how bad it is, and then I read something else and realize that it's even worse than I thought before. Mm-hmm. So I cover a lot of, as Ryan said, constitutional issues. So I have free speech. I also have some Fourth Amendment, the privacy, surveillance state things. And as you mentioned, those unfortunately actually overlap a lot. Mm-hmm. People are much less likely to speak out and freely express themselves, voice their opinion if they think they're being watched all the time. I mean, we hear these stories out of dictatorships about, you know, the walls have ears. And that's not the case here yet, but we do have a lot of surveillance going on that in the wrong hands could certainly be abused to hugely harmful effects.
Yeah, when they had the wall up in Germany and you were over on the side of the Ruskies, it wasn't a good side to be on. I was watching a special about that, and the Stasi literally could listen to anybody they wanted to in that country that's why everybody kept their mouths shut whenever they were on telephone.
Surveillance and those kind of speech laws are for the purpose of freezing speech and making sure that those that are in power that have the ability to pass such laws remain that way. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, that Germany situation, that was decades ago. So think of what they would have done now with all the new technology they would have had.
Oh, my God. It'd be crazy right now.
Yeah,
it would be.
Yeah.
Well, and to that point, regarding technology, you see, like in the United Kingdom, that their laws allow arrests for communications that are grossly offensive, annoying, or cause distress. I see that in my Facebook and X feed every single day. Something that hits every single one of those little planks there. But they're arresting people. They had 12,000 arrests in 2023, Dave, just from the social media online speech component. That's Britain. 12,000 Britons were arrested for that kind of speech. And when you read into it, it can be really crazy examples of it. There was a conviction of a woman who insulted a man in private text after he allegedly assaulted her. So she's in a private text thread saying things about him because he assaulted her, allegedly. I guess it's not been gone through the courts yet. And they arrested her for speech violations because it was annoying, grossly offensive, or caused distress for the man. How wrong-headed is that?
Yeah, it's completely wrong-headed. Just as wrong-headed of going out and arresting a woman who's standing out in the parking lot, and the Bobby walks up and says, "What do you do?" And she says, "I'm praying." And what are you praying about? And she told him, and they arrested her.
Yeah. Well, there's another example of police warning a Jewish man of wearing his kippah, his little, skull cap there, and said that just his presence alone could provoke a riot or a crowd to disrupt the public peace. And that is just crazy. When we hear about that in the United States, we're taken aback and should be taken aback and a bit appalled by that. But yet there are spaces in which, speech can still be under the guise of reasonableness and abundance of caution and protection and or transparency or whatever it may be, still be assaulted. And Molly sees that quite a bit.
I'm sure Molly would agree with what I'm going to say. And that's because, when Americans look at the British, we think that they're just like us in what their laws are. The same thing with the Canadians.
Yeah.
That the Canadians are just like us. Both of them do not have a First Amendment right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're unique on that. I'll let you talk there, Molly. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, because there are no huge wars or anything going on there, they kind of slide under the radar. But in the meantime, there are these really big problems happening there. And I mean, Ryan mentioned all the arrests, but that's only going to get worse if this just keeps being ignored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've got to wind some of that back. I don't know how, but it is very interesting how far Europe has taken speech laws, and I don't think it's for the better.
No, it is
at
not
all.
for the better.
But even from the founding, Molly, we had tests of speech, and even though he's one of my favorite founders, John Adams. We did the Alien and Sedition Acts back then, where you're not supposed to speak against the government. But we just came out of our primaries here, and it was pretty brutal in some regard, with a lot of information flying around, or misinformation, or miscategorization, and all of that. Standard American politics. And that's not an exception. It has been that way since the founding. There's a great book about the presidential election of, I think, 1800. And it is crazy what some of these guys were saying about each other in the papers. And, some crazy stuff. For example, everybody's excited, had gotten excited, and hopefully it's waned a little bit because I'm not a Hamilton fan of the man. Wasn't in his camp. So, thank him for the contributions he made to the founding, but there's some things I wish he wouldn't put into place.
Central bank being the foremost one.
But they were taking his letters to his mistress and publishing them in the paper. How crazy is that? And then calling each other all kinds of names. And so ugly politics, miscategorization, saying, crazy, outlandish things has been a part of the American experience in politics. And,
100%.
And yet the voters tend to weigh that lightly and vote their conscience and vote what they know. And I think that proved out here. I mean, some of the races that had the most negative campaigning against them, the incumbents won. Their voters didn't take the bait.
Yeah, I think voters understand that there are always going to be attacks against their candidate. Some attacks will be more valid than others. And, I think we can trust the American people to figure that out for themselves.
And that's what the Founding Fathers aired on, the side of people having a brain and they could figure out what was a lie and what was truth. Now, I got to admit, with the technologies that we have today, it's even more difficult to tell if what you're seeing is true or false. But some of that could be taken care of without taking away freedom of speech, could be taken away, and people not being able to use AI in certain ways to make something look different than what it is.
Yeah. So the problem too is it's true that there is a lot of misinformation and there is a big problem around that. That's not a made up problem. But of course, the worst possible way to address it would be having the government come in and start saying, okay, this is true. This is not true. That's not lead anywhere good.
You mean we don't need a
Ministry of Truth?
A Ministry of Truth here in the United States? I mean, I talk about that all the time, how 1984 is 2026 right now.
Yeah. Someone actually asked me the other day, they said, 1984, I thought that used to be in the science fiction section. And I'm like, well, there's nothing in it that's really science fiction anymore.
Yeah, I'm excited. I guess in about 3 weeks, a new version of Animal Farm is coming out to theaters.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So that will be interesting.
Hey, I tell you,
we all know that some pigs
some animals are more equal than others.
And
that's the situation that you get, because what happens in some of these laws, Dave, that are pitched as being for pro the people are really for pro incumbents that are for the incumbent powers of government, and they never imagine that those incumbent powers will eventually be turned on them, and or that it won't disadvantage them in some way. But that's not the case. We see from Animal Farm, some animals are more equal than others. That still resonates. We believe in equality under the law. I mean, I just said, if we believe in equal rights, then why is it the right of a student athlete at the University of Arkansas who's here, on scholarship, to not pay income tax, when I, Ryan Norris, who live here in Arkansas for 30 plus years, still have to pay state income tax? And I know they've got good reasons for it, but they also have good reasons in their mind for why speech should be, curtailed or frozen, or make it less attractive to speak in certain ways. And we have to really, as a people, who, going back to this idea of the experiment, the founding principles of the individual being the most important in this process, and enshrining the rights of people for speech and association, we've got to push back on it, or the slippery slope ends up in a European style speech police and thought police.
Look at what has happened in Canada over the last few years. Preachers preaching from the pulpit in their churches, standing in front of their congregations and preaching from the Word of God. And just because they read a passage that says a passage that a man shouldn't lie down with another man, are thrown into jail.
And that happened in Finland. They had a pastor who said something that was aligned with his faith and belief, and he was prosecuted for it. And so we don't want to go down that route. I know that it's political season, it's emotional. There's a lot going on and happening. People feel attacked and beset upon. But this experiment and this approach of letting the best ideas move to the top require a stoic attitude on keeping your eye on the prize, that the truth it will out, and that people will be able to make the right decisions. And I think that there's examples of that here in Arkansas and even nationally. But yeah, so, Molly, what are some of the ways that American speech has been under, kind of been under threat from your perspective?
Yeah.
I know you study this.
So one of the things that's going on kind of all across the country, many states are considering these laws and kind of flying under the radar, are these ideas to force organizations to disclose the name of their donors. So you brought up a few minutes ago the cases of people being arrested for praying in public. Obviously, we've seen a lot of fights over praying in front of abortion clinics, et cetera. But in New Jersey, there's actually a court case going on for the last couple of years. There was a crisis pregnancy center in New Jersey. So this is a pro-life group. Mm-hmm. They just exist to help women, babies. And the Attorney General a couple of years ago went after them for, I think he had a fraud investigation into them. This is a pretty common tactic used by pro-abortion politicians. And as part of that, he demanded that they hand over their entire list of donors.
Right.
And you can imagine that if you live in New Jersey, you don't necessarily, and you are pro-life New Jerseyan, you donate to these causes you care about, you don't necessarily, living in New Jersey, want this information out there for everyone. And that if that information is required to be released, then maybe you're going to be less likely to support these causes you care about. And maybe, as in that case in Germany you brought up, maybe you're just going to stay quiet when you otherwise wouldn't have. So that's a huge case right now that's working its way up through the courts.
Yeah, well, let's look at Iran right now. The people are not going out and demonstrating. Why? Because they're going to get shot. That's a pretty good reason, as far as freedom of speech. They don't have any.
Right.
Yeah.
And we need to protect these rights very vigorously, Dave, because we see where it can end up.
The problem is we're asking the fox to protect our rights.
Well, there's that. There is that. But but that's where the people, that's why it's so important to protect the freedom of association in the United States, because the counterbalance to authoritarian government or to guard against authoritarian government is to have robust citizen organizations and groups that can push back on that power of government. Because again, an association is nothing more than an organized group of individuals, and the individuals are the ones who are trying to protect their personal rights. And Reagan's warned us about this. It's one generation away from losing liberties. That has played out well in my. I think that I've got less rights now than I did when from the time I was born.
You do.
Less 100%. Rights. Government's involved in so much more in my life, and definitely way more than when the founding was. And you can argue pros and cons about those kind of things or perspectives on those kinds of comparisons, but I really feel, and this goes back even when we were starting the conversation today with Val and you and I talking about, the ability to say what we kind of want to say, is that it's the individual that our founders made the most important minority and built a society to sustain an individual, even from different backgrounds, thoughts, beliefs, etc. The cost of doing business in a free society is to hear things that you don't want to hear and to be exposed to things that you don't believe. But yet, if you have convictions of your own, principles, those will not affect you. Those won't change you. But it could be that you learned something along the way. That's why the experiment has been worked so well. We take ideas. People want to come here to share their ideas and their knowledge, and we want that. But along with it comes the, this adult exercise in managing your emotions. Don't say just because, everything that I dislike needs to be legislated against or people need to be thrown in jail or any of that. I I do not subscribe to that at all individually. I will defend, like Jefferson said, I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. There are certain lines that, Dave, for me as an individual, I cannot cross. And trying to curtail someone else's free speech is definitely one of those spaces. I want respect individually and let them hear me out as well. But I think that it's important that we always go back to that touchstone of free speech as a cornerstone of our founding principles.
All right, we're going to take a few moments. Molly, we're going to take a couple of moments to play some spots. Then we'll come back and finish up our conversation with you about freedom of speech here on the Dave Ellswick Show, 101.1 The Answer.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call now at 800-533-6605 for a free consultation. For 17 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and a Christian-owned company. Don't get stuck in the endless cycle of payments. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Christian-owned Total Financial Freedom now at 800-533-6605. That's 800-533-6605. 800-533-6605.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council. We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
When I met both of them, it was like my missing pieces were found. It was just like an instant, these are my kids. If you're considering adopting a teen, just do it. Kids need families. I don't care the age. Everybody deserves a family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
You served behind the desk.
You served in combat.
You did 4 years and got out.
You were drafted.
You gave 20 years.
You gave exactly what your country needed.
And so did you.
When you raised your hand and swore an oath to your country, when you put your name on the dotted line, you became part of only 1% of Americans who did the same. You are a veteran.
You are a veteran.
You are a veteran. Because no matter when, where, or how you served, you made a sacrifice for your country. And you deserve support.
If you're struggling with life after service, don't wait. Reach out.
Reach out to a loved one, to a fellow veteran, to VA.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
I'm Ferenc Toth, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. I use common sense as an entrepreneur, financial literacy educator, and speaker to understand how current events affect our money, our economy, and our freedom. Grow your money safely, reduce taxes, increase returns, and create positive arbitrage with your personal bank. Tune in to the Your Personal Bank Show, Saturdays at 1 p.m. or contact Ferenc at yourpersonalbank.com. The Your Personal Bank Show, Saturdays at 1 p.m. on 101.1 The Answer.
The Dave Ellswick Show continues now. 101.1 The Answer.
We're going to get back and draw Molly back into the conversation here. Molly, how do we fight against these people who would like to strip us of our First Amendment rights? Because a lot of them that are doing it are young people. They act like they don't understand what freedom of speech is all about.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most powerful things we can do is just remind people that at some point the boot is always going to be on the other foot. You might think, if you're a Democrat in a blue state or a Republican in a red state, if whoever is the president at any given moment is of your party, you might kind of think oh, we're safe. We can just give the government more power because they're going to do what we want them to do with this power. the reality is the other party is always going to be in control at some point. So you mentioned before the break, it's the fox doing the guarding. Well, the best thing to do is make sure that the fox has as little power as possible so that they, no matter how much they want to come after you, they'll just have less ability to do that in the first place.
But I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing people that want to give the fox big dentures where they can bite you even more.
Yeah.
And it's particularly when we're talking in the political sense, it is the people have to make decisions based on information about their candidate. And this is a space where you want more speech, not less. And I know that sounds in light of what's going on, that people are like ruffled about it, but like, well, hey, what about speech that doesn't, maybe untruthful or outlandish or whatever? The people gravitate towards a little more what is moderate and truthful. And we have examples of that, I think, here in the state again, to where those that were probably attacked with some of the most outlandish claims walked away with the victory, substantially walked away with the victory. And so it's just, I think, a showing that it's not a bug, it's a feature. And the people, when they start hearing things that freak them out a little too much, they go and they think, well, maybe I should consider this a little more, with a little more focus. And they make the right decisions most of the time when they do that.
Molly, for people who want to read your articles, where do they go?
So I actually do not do a lot of public-facing things, but I do work with a lot of people who do some great work. So if you go to Americans for Prosperity, you'll see so much work that a lot of my colleagues have put together, americansforprosperity.org.
All right. We appreciate you joining us today, and keep up fighting the good fight.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye now. All right. That was Molly Powell here on the Dave Ellswick Show from AFP. Ryan is going to stick around. He's not flying to Washington anytime soon. So we'll be back to
2
talk
weeks
further here on the Dave Ellswick Show.
Find us at 1011fmtheanswer.com. Download our app, stream us 24/7, or watch us at snc.tv. KDXE, Kamek Village, Little Rock.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. Amit Thomason. In this morning's Iran war update, Defense Secretary Hegseth declares we are winning. He says today will be, yet again, our most intense day of strikes inside Iran, which, according to Hegseth, has been isolated from its neighbors and former Gulf allies. Just finished the job, sir. President Trump says that is what the families of 6 of the American service members killed in the war have told him. Mr. Trump says Operation Epic Fury will not cease until victory has been achieved, and he's suggesting it may not take that much longer.
Very soon. Look, everything they have is gone, including their leadership. In fact, there are 2 levels of leadership, and even actually, as it turns out, more than that. But 2 levels of leadership are gone. Most people have never even heard about the leaders that they're talking about. So it's obviously been very, very powerful, very effective.
Iran continues launching deadly drone and missile strikes on its neighbors, including Bahrain.
1 person has been killed and 8 others have been wounded in an attack on a residential building in Bahrain's capital by Iran. It was the first time a person has been killed in an attack in the small island nation in the Persian Gulf since the war began. The attack in Myanmar came a day after a drone attack injured 32 people, including several children, in the Sitra area north of the capital. Bahrain has been the target of repeated attacks by Iran since the war began. Authorities have said the nation had intercepted 102 missiles and 171 drones from Iran since the conflict began.
Correspondent Luke Garrett. There is a special election today in Georgia, voters choosing a replacement for GOP Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Watching Wall Street, the Dow futures are down 109 points. NASDAQ futures off 16. Townhall.com.
A Social Security update. 70 million Americans collect Social Security benefits today, and millions more will join soon. Now, a new study finds 70% of Americans don't get the full benefits they deserve. But recipients can use simple strategies to boost Social Security benefits by as much as $188,000 over a lifetime. Social Security expert Michael Allen says it's true and reveals 5 key strategies to increase your benefits. It's all in his free special report. Newsmax calls the report your best guide for bigger Social Security benefits. Whether you're getting benefits or soon will, you need the Social Security report. Get it free. Call 800-999-9690. 800-999-9690. We'll text it to you right away, along with President Trump's act cutting your Social Security taxes. Call now, 800-999-9690. 800-999-9690. Text and data rates may apply.
President Trump is vowing to use American military might to secure the transport of oil through the strategic Strait of Hormuz.
The comments by the president have given markets temporary reassurance that something will be done to stop the price of oil from spiraling out of control. But for now, the facts on the ground haven't changed. The war is continuing, and still no oil tankers dare to cross the Strait of Hormuz. Details from Mr. Trump on what would make that possible are sketchy. Petrol prices are up everywhere, and there have been reports of panic buying in places such as Indonesia and Pakistan, where schools have been closed.
The BBC's Nick Marsh. The parents of a girl critically wounded in a school shooting in British Columbia suing ChatGPT maker OpenAI, alleging it knew the shooter was planning a mass attack. OpenAI has said it considered but did not alert police prior to the shooting. News and analysis, townhall.com. Former Nixon White House official who gained national notoriety during the Watergate scandal has died at the age of 99.
Alexander Butterfield was the White House aide who revealed the existence of President Richard Nixon's secret Oval Office taping system during the Watergate investigation. Butterfield's 1973 testimony to Senate investigators became one of the most pivotal moments in the Watergate scandal, leading to the legal battle for the tapes that ultimately forced Richard Nixon's resignation in 1974. As a deputy assistant to the president, Butterfield oversaw the taping system connected to the voice-activated listening devices that had been secretly placed. Bill Alexander, Washington.
The Federal Aviation Administration briefly grounded all JetBlue flights early today, responding to a request from the airline. The ground stop was lifted after about 40 minutes. JetBlue says a brief system outage been resolved. It has resumed operations. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Let's be honest. The National Symphony may not be in his future, but he wanted to try violin. So you said yes because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more about keeping your kids safe in your vehicle at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show him you love him. Keep him safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Wesley is a truck driver.
I drive a truck, and I love what I do.
A truck driver with IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Quite a few letters in the mail. They were talking about wage garnishment, coming after my house, my car. Yeah, they don't play around. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
One sleepless night, Wesley finally made a call to Optima Tax Relief at 2 a.m.
Kind of figured I'd get a machine, but I didn't. I actually got to talk to an actual person in the middle of the night.
He found just what he was looking for.
Oh, they were great people. You need a team of people that know what they're doing. Optima Tax, they know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Happy don't even come close. I was absolutely overjoyed.
Take Wesley's advice.
If you're in any kind of trouble with the IRS, call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com. Alex Marlowe wants to get to the bottom of it.
We know that Ghislaine Maxwell is instrumental to the founding Clinton Foundation. That's where the probe needs to start. But she gets asked about, you say that you barely even knew her, and her expression was that they were just acquaintances, which is a complete lie. And if she lied under oath, I mean, who knows? Because I don't know exactly what the testimony was. But these could be serious crimes that we're talking about here. Are we going to start looking into this stuff?
The Alex Marlowe Show, weekday mornings at 11 on 101.1. The Answer.
Back with you. Have you caught, Ryan, any of the videos that the White House has put out about the Iranian strikes that they've made with the music that they put with
No,
music?
I don't think I have yet.
Yeah, they've got one that's really good. That's just strike after strike after strike, and it's done to Thunderstruck.
Oh wow, yeah, great song.
Yeah, yeah. So,
of course,
it kind of says like it really is over in Iran. They're losing all of the equipment that they have in the bombings that our Air Force are doing and the Israeli Air Force is doing. So it's kind of interesting what's going on over there. Mm-hmm. Trump warned the mullahs they better be ready to get on the stick or face fire and fury from the United States military, and that what they've seen so far was really they've seen nothing, that it'd be double or triple worse than it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we have the ability to break things. That's what our military is designed for.
Well, and the other thing is that that's what your military is supposed to do. It's supposed to bring your enemies to their knees that they don't want to fight anymore.
Yeah.
Along with the people. I mean, he's not been attacking, a lot of areas that are civilian concentrated. But if a factory is by a subdivision, you might have some collateral damage to those places. But the people in Iran are waving their American flags. It's kind of like what D-Day was like. If you were living in Normandy, you're glad that the Americans and British and Canadians and everybody else was there, but you knew that you probably weren't going to have a home when it was all over with.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, liberty isn't purchased cheaply.
No, it's not.
And maintaining it can be hard. We've been able to do a decent job of it for 250 years, and I'm excited that we can continue that for another 250 years. I want my children's children to be able to live in a free country. And, there's threats where, now with the way things are, the world is really smaller than it used to be in terms of connectivity.
Well, and no big oceans to protect anybody.
Not much, not like it used to be. And so, thoughts and prayers and for safety and for our servicemen and women, and prayers for quick peace as soon as possible for everybody, But we've, at times you just got to go and face things head on. And that's the approach that the government, that the president is taking, and we'll see how it all shakes out. But yeah, interesting times, Dave.
Well, I was traveling into work this morning and listening to the radio, as I always do, and listening to news radio. And in a newscast, they were talking about why haven't the Iranians taken to the streets yet? Well, it's very simple. Their secret police are still riding around in Jeeps with mounted machine guns. Mm-hmm. And if you show your nose out there and you're trying to protest what your government is doing in Iran, they gun you down.
Right.
And the people in Iran, they don't have the weaponry to take on those people yet. They may in the future, but they don't have it right now. So they stay indoors and do what they're told.
Yeah. And that definitely used to not be in the nature of Americans, and hopefully that stays that way. We've got to be able to stand up individually and as a group of individuals to defend ourselves against overreaches of government. And so our founders, they did a very good job understanding human nature and the nature of power, and set up checks and balances, but also set it up to where the people could not easily be overwhelmed by their government, and
nor could the people easily overwhelm their government.
Yeah.
It worked both ways, and that's what people don't understand. I mean, look, Jefferson was probably the more purist about revolution. I mean, he was backing the revolution in France when it first started, until they started really shedding blood and they brought out the guillotine and all that. And then he didn't want anything to do with it.
Right. And there's conversations about that you can read in Jefferson's papers, to where he kind of changed his opinion on the righteousness of that. But that's because we started off, we had a different model. Now, ours was to push back against overreaching government and to secure individual liberties. French had a little bit of a different goal.
Yeah, it was against corruption and some other things.
Yeah, and they had beef both with their monarchy and with the church, the Catholic Church in France at the time.
Yeah,
and so that's where you had atrocities happen at monasteries and in nunneries and all this kind of stuff. It was a terrible, terrible war that they had. And then what did they get out of that? Napoleon, who
the strong man.
And that's what you have to watch out for in democracies, is that when the people give up their right to rule themselves, the strong man will come. And that's, I said this often, but Chesterton said that democracies die of exhaustion, that the people just decide, it's just too tough to make decisions about who to vote for. And it's too tough to make decisions about what's right for my life. Or, I just think that it's not fair that I'm not able to achieve at the same level someone else is able to achieve. And there's this. And then, so what do? They gravitate to the person who says, I'm going to keep you safe and I'm going to make you prosperous. I'm going to do that because I'm going to pass laws that make sure that you're taken care of in that way. Never results in that. Never does.
No.
It just results in catastrophe. History bears that out. But people are willing to give that up. And I think that there's some degree of that, Dave, with the low voter participation rates that we see in Arkansas and across the nation, is that people are just kind of like, what does it matter what I vote? It's not going to make any difference. Though I argue that your quality of life starts at the ballot box.
Of course it does.
I
would agree with that.
Knowing what people are running on and what they want to try to get accomplished. I pay attention to that. Like, if government's going to get out of someone's way so they can make a better decision for themselves, or they can have the decision rights, say it again, create that society in which more decisions are made by you than for you. Too many people losing their hope in the American dream because they feel that the things that the components of that dream are being dictated by someone outside of themselves, be that government or be that interests that are entrenched with government. That's the way they feel. And so they're just kind of throwing their hands up in the air and say, well, what good does it do to even vote when I know that most likely things are rigged against me? Well, that's where organizations like AFP and others can come to help organize these individuals to push back on those overreaches of government so that we can maximize our freedom as much as possible.
Let me give you a few moments to think about this, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Today is the anniversary of this special device. What was it?
The toaster.
No.
Oh.
No,
okay.
The telephone.
No, the telephone.
Also
equally
150 years old. And what did government do with the phone after it was developed? Figure out how to tap it.
Yeah.
All right. That's just something to keep in mind. As far as the phone did a lot to help people, but the phone was tapped by the government, and it wasn't so good for most people as far as it was concerned. During the 1920s, they used to say that you couldn't carry on a conversation on a phone without a government person listening to you. That's kind of crazy.
That's crazy.
All right, a break. 8:17, the Dave Ellswick Show, 1011, The Answer.
America is at a tipping point. To ensure we stay the land of the free and home of the brave, you need to be informed and engaged. That's why we're here. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
Where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has to offer to help you. This million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
What is dedication?
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is Dariana. We call him Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's attention, affection, knowledge. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. The craziest thing was believing that your dad knew everything. So as a dad, you felt like you had to know everything. You had to get everything right. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then, it kind of starts to work itself out. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
We bring you the biggest news of the day. Answer. Little Rock comes to talk. This is 101.1, The Answer.
All right, back with you 20 minutes after 8, Dave Ellswick Show. Ryan Norris is our guest. He's the chairman for Americans for Prosperity here in the state of Arkansas. And next week, they're going to have some meetings dealing about how to get down to zero state income tax. And Grover Norquist is coming in, American Tax Reform, going to be with us. And what all is happening next week?
Yeah, so Grover Norquist is coming in, and one of our partners in the Pathway to Zero. This is the approach of phasing out the Arkansas income tax, which is a goal of Governor Sanders. Started off in 2023 in her inaugural address saying, hey, we want to wipe this off the books. And we've done great work in Arkansas, going from, I think, 6.9 down to now 3.9. We are nearing the halfway mark on cutting the taxes in half, and that's a positive thing.
Now, you all want to get it down to 3%, correct?
Well, we want to get it.
We
want to go to zero over time, and so that's the importance that you pay for these tax cuts over time as the economy grows. So that's what's the conversation has been around is that, and then Grover has been very helpful in directing some of the components, or talking about some of the components, and go into getting us to zero. Oklahoma is doing this, Missouri is doing this, Louisiana is doing this, Mississippi is doing this. In fact, Arkansas, if we don't act, though we are excited about 3.9, going from 6.9 down to 3.9, Arkansas could be left behind in phasing this out, or at minimum signaling that we want to phase this out through policy. We have leadership and lawmakers now who are focused on cutting taxes, and that's great. But what business and individuals would like to see is consistency, something they can plan the future around. And when you're looking at states already, we heard and we talked about it, how we're losing student athletes potentially to other states who have lower income tax or zero income tax for student athletes at the University of Arkansas. And those student athletes are not paying an income tax here in the state. So again, it's just a proof that if you want to keep and maintain great talent, you need to have a tax environment in which people feel like they're able to keep more of what they've earned.
An easy way to remember this is if you want less of something, tax it. If you want more of something, don't tax it.
That's true. Now, so Arkansas in general, there is the National Taxpayers Union. We just had them in last week, Joey Bishop Henchman,
Right.
And they talked about the net migration of interstate net migration and this goes back to 2021 for individuals under the age of 35. And Arkansas, on the whole, we're ranked number 16. So under 35, we are having more people come here under the age of 35 than leave here under the age of 35.
And that's good.
Now, what it comes down to, I think that number was about like 20,000 or so that move in, but we lose 17,000. So we only have like a 3,000 delta there.
Okay.
But with a better tax environment, we're likely to keep them. And that's one of the benefits of that. Plus, in Arkansas, people ask and say, okay, well, we're going to keep them here. So that means that their talent and their innovation would stay here in the state, which would help our economy grow. On top of that, Arkansas has someone move into the state every 36 minutes. We have net in migration.
That's a nice figure.
That is. Whereas California has someone leaving their state every minute. Every 60 seconds, every 60 minutes of 1 hour, 60 people leave. And so Arkansas has these positive things.
And that's not hard to understand when you look at their tax structure.
Right. And so for Arkansas, with our net in migration, and the National Taxpayer Union had calculated this. I'm trying to remember what the time frame is on this. But 2025 net revenue impact from migration. So people moving into the state, their contributions to our economy. Arkansas's contribution, we're ranked number 18, but $68 million additional dollars generated in our economy as a result of people moving into the state. And I mean, that's substantial. That's a good amount of money.
That is substantial.
Considering that in Arkansas, about every $50 to $55 million represents about a tenth of a point of state income tax that could be reduced. The more people we can attract here into the state that spend their dollars here, those are taxed via sales tax. They start corporations. They support their local cities and counties. That's a net positive. So Arkansas is becoming a place, we can see it, that people want to move here. They do want to come here and they want to contribute. So great conversations last week with National Taxpayers Union. Went around, talked to lawmakers. We moved, I think we're up to about 40 plus lawmakers who have committed to the concept of pathway to zero.
That's not enough yet.
Yeah, we're growing it. We are growing it. So next week, we're hoping that Grover will be able to walk through some of the hesitations that some have over this. Like, for example, how do you pay for this? Well, Arkansas has, again, if you have net in migration, you're seeing that more people are spending in the economy. That's going to help us to give us the revenue that we need to cut the tax over time. Arkansas does not, does not have a state property tax. We would never advocate, of course, for one, but we don't have that. People bring that up. There is some interesting policy out of the National Taxpayer Union about truth and taxation that help with the issue of property tax. And so soon, Dave, I would like to have that conversation with you. I think it's worth having. People are concerned about the property taxes. Your property taxes, though, about 81 cents of every dollar in property taxes goes to your schools.
We need to get Robin Lundstrom on because she's been talking about how to get rid of property taxes. We need to get her in here and sit down with us and talk about it.
Yeah, and your major pushback is going to come from your cities and your counties and your school districts. There's already conversations out there as a result of AFP pushing the pathway to zero about, we need more money in our schools. The schools get between $6 and $6.5 billion is the general education fund when you count state, federal, and local taxation. $6.5 billion just for education, when Arkansas has roughly about 4 to 4.5, maybe in a good year, 5 billion that we apply towards everything else in our state. That's your roads, that's your public safety, that's your running of government. So, there needs to be some conversations about what is necessary and adequate and how our funds are being spent. It is a conundrum because we seem for $6.5 billion, I haven't seen an update recently, but the old 2 year ago statistic was about 33% of our kids could read at grade level. And for $6.5 billion for 450,000 kids that are in K through 12, you would anticipate maybe a better return on that investment.
I would hope so.
And I know there's a lot of other things. That's a very complex because you have at home issues, you have in classroom and out of classroom issues. I get all of that. However, the taxpayer can't be the one to try to solve every one of those problems at that level. There's things that you just can't legislate or throw enough money against to solve. There's just not going to be that way. We talk about internal versus external barriers, and I don't know what the external barriers to an education would be for a student who's committed to learning and whose family is focused on them learning. I mean, the conversation with my daughter and her grades, we have that, sometimes every day, depending on what's going on, but definitely we stay in tune with it. I look at her grades. We talk to her teachers. We talk to her. We want her to own her education. It's not just making good grades for dad. It's about learning knowledge so she can anticipate the future and make better decisions.
All right. We're going to continue to talk about this when we come back. Ryan Norris, our special guest, Americans for Prosperity, on the Dave Ellswick Show.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. In this day 11 of the Iran war, President Trump says it is progressing more rapidly than expected, and he predicts the war will end soon. He also threatens Iran with a fierce response if it disrupts oil tanker traffic through the strategic Strait of Hormuz. Mr. Trump says the U.S. was forced to take action against the Iranian regime because of its steadfast refusal to give up its quest for nuclear weapons. Iran, meanwhile, has been firing more drones and missiles at Israel and Gulf Arab countries. Gas prices on the rise. As of this morning, AAA's national average for a gallon of regular, $3.54. That's 6 cents a gallon from yesterday. The California average is $5.29 a gallon. The FAA briefly grounded all JetBlue flights earlier today because of a request from the airline. The ground stop since has been lifted. This is SRN News.
Here's some great news. If you missed the deadline to sign up for health insurance, or more importantly, if you're just not happy with what you've got, you still have a choice. It's called MediShare, and it's proven for more than 30 years. It is proven. And we know this from member surveys. People love it, which is why it's grown to hundreds of thousands of members across the country. One big factor, besides the peace of mind that comes from being a MediShare member, the savings is tremendous. It is not atypical for a family of four switching to MediShare to save more than $8,000 a year. It is a difference maker. And you can get 24/7 telehealth. You get access to more than 1 million providers and hospitals. There are flexible options, too, for your budget. So if you think you're stuck with a high-cost plan that doesn't have much to offer, think again. You could join MediShare anytime. So call them today and check it out. There's no pressure. They're super easy to talk to. Here's the number. 844-45-BIBLE. That's 844-45-BIBLE. 844-45-BIBLE.
She's unafraid and unapologetic. She's Laura Trump, and she's shaking things up on the Right View podcast.
We're the side with the mean stuff? Are you guys kidding? You call us Nazis. You call us fascists. You call Donald Trump Hitler from the left. Really? We're the side that's the problem. You're out assaulting ICE agents every chance you possibly get.
Subscribe to the Right View podcast with Laura Trump on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Town Hall News, where conservative voices cut through the noise from breaking headlines to fearless opinion. We report what matters without apology. Written by people who actually believe what you believe. Town Hall tells the stories the corporate press buries, from President Trump to Capitol Hill, from pivotal elections to your everyday lives. Join the movement at townhall.com. Real stories, real reporters, real conservative media.
So you need a new roof for your house. You got a leak. I can only tell you, go with the best. Go with the folks that I use. PI Roofing. PI Roofing will get your roof taken care of. They'll deal with the insurance people, the appraisers, and all that stuff. All you have to do is call them and ask them to help you. 501-707-3548 is the number to call so you can talk to the good folks at PI Roofing.
Dave Ellswick is the conservative voice of Arkansas, and he's back. 101.1, The Answer.
All right, so how are you getting through to these politicians about coming down on the program to get rid of the income tax?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. One is just good policy makes good politics, and affordability is a top issue in the minds of midterm voters. Seeing that on campaign mail, you're seeing that in social. People care about it. It's the pocketbook. Going back to what we previously said, it's the economy, stupid. James Carville, he gave you kind of the blueprint. There are many individuals who move from blue states to red states because of the economic opportunity, and they will vote red as long as the economic opportunities still exist and are there. When they feel like their quality of life is not being eroded, that their cost of living is low, they will reward politicians and lawmakers for that you have made my life a little easier. I am able to meet my needs, have extra, invest in my future, in my children's future, and they again reward for that kind of policy. So there's that component. It's just good policy. It's good politics. Then there is that other states around us, Texas and Tennessee are already zero. You have Oklahoma, Missouri, Louisiana, Mississippi that are also pushing for zero income tax in their state and have passed policies to message that, to say, hey, we understand tax cuts are good, that there's a way of going about it. So what you do is you pass a policy that has a process that when your state's economy produces so much that government collects more than it needs in revenues, those revenue surpluses are gauged against what's anticipated in the future. And if the cuts that you're proposing, if that amount of money is going to be equal or greater than, or equal or less than the future projections of revenue, then you go ahead and you set that as a trigger and you cut. That could be for Arkansas, every about 50 to 55 million represents a tenth of a point. So if we have excess of, say, $110 million, they could cut from 3.9 down to 3.7. And so good politics, or good policy makes good politics. There's urgency that other states are signaling this, and businesses are looking at that and say, where do I want to be in the future?
You don't want to be at the end of the line on that.
Not for us. No, not for us. When we have strong competitors, competing states around us, Tennessee and Texas, definitely Oklahoma, and others that are coming online. They get that this is what's going to attract business and investment and employees into the state of Arkansas. So those are two components. And then that this is achievable and doable. We've had, I think, 13 cuts in the last 10 plus years, roughly. And each cut has had a corresponding surplus that's come out of that. And so that goes back to the talk of in-migration, and Arkansas is getting a bump of about $68 million in 2025 in economic impact from those that are moving into the state. And so that's a positive. And so if we attract more people because our tax environment is more pro-earning, meaning low-income tax, then again, those can grow that. They can grow that out. And walking them through this. So we've had Dr. Richard Evans of the Abundance Institute in. We've had Patrick Fleener of Americans of Prosperity, who heads up our economic tax policy portfolio. We've had Joey Bishop Hinchman in from Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union. Next week is Grover Norquist. So Grover's going to be meeting with lawmakers. We have some other meetings with leadership that are coming on next week. He's going to be speaking at his center-right coalition luncheon on Thursday, and then that evening we're going to Bentonville, and we will be in Bentonville for the Pathway to Zero event up there. If you'd like to know more about the Pathway to Zero event in Bentonville, you can go to believenar.com, go to the events section, and then you can register there. For registries that show up, we're going to have a free meal for you. And then you get to hear from Grover and walk through these issues. The concerns that have just popped up are not so much concerns about lowering the income tax to zero as it is there are also other taxes out there to prioritize. We just talked about the property taxes. That is a legitimate concern. Right now, we're focused in at AFP on the state income tax. We're also interested in budget reform policies so that the Arkansas budget places the taxpayer and the citizen as the top priority, and it's not just agency-centric. Right now, our agencies and government entities come up with what they believe they want, need, and then they walk that through the process, and that's why you see these year-over-year budget increases. Well, I think that the budget increases of 2.5%, 3% could potentially be coming to an end soon, to where we start seeing 1% and 2% maybe decreases in the cost of government to Arkansans. I haven't looked it up yet, but I remember a statistic being that among states, Arkansas has one of the highest costs of government per capita. And so that's something to look into.
And that's something that can be worked on.
Yeah. So what you want to do is you walk down your tax rates over time using triggers. When we don't have the money, we don't do the cut. So we're not forced into anything. But then you have correspondingly budget reforms that shrink the cost of government, efficiencies that can be brought out of that, redundancies that can be eliminated. And that savings goes towards the revenue surpluses. And those surpluses then go to your tax cuts.
Yeah. The key here is if you get additional revenue, you don't start a new program.
Right.
You cut existing programs.
Right.
Well, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, that's how simple it can be. But we're getting more and more momentum. We started off with a few, and now we're up to already 40. There is conversation about this under the dome. The governor has highlighted this as something she wants to focus in on, her plan, to get to zero. And we're supportive of that. And leadership is getting on board. It's just, do we pass a policy sooner rather than later on this? We argue that it should be sooner because Arkansans need a signal that we're going to zero as we approach the midterms. If you cut 1 or 2 tenths, that's great. We appreciate that. And even if you cut more, we're great, and we appreciate that. But there needs to be a signal that people can plan long-term around.
I agree with that. 1 or 2% off of taxes is not going to get people's attention like a total 1% move or even more than that.
Yeah, and we're talking in terms of tenths of a percent. So if you go from 3.9 to 3.8, okay, that's cool. We appreciate that. But it doesn't have that impact where you say, hey, we lowered it to 3.8. We collapsed the brackets. We bonused up the standard deduction, so no one underneath the top marginal rate is paying any more in, or may even be paying none in. And then we are setting the triggers in place to get us to zero over time. When you do that, people are like, oh, okay, you guys are really serious about this. And it's not just left in the hands of the politicians, because that changes. There's been a change to the makeup of the Arkansas House of Representatives just this past, last week.
Yeah.
And so, there's this pendulums can swing. And I think now, while we have the members that are inclined to do this, we need to make that policy a priority as soon as possible.
So the primary, did it swing for us or against us?
Well, primary just depends on who you ask. In general, for us, we would have liked to have seen. There were some folks that we backed that didn't win, but overall, the ones we picked, they're staying in office and they're aligned with us on this issue, so that's a positive. But what I highlight is the special general election in House District 70 that went from Republican to Democrat in a significant wave. Nearly 3-1 outvoted. And that's significant. And needs to be taken into consideration, because it's not just Central Arkansas that could be in play. It could be Northwest Arkansas in play as well. That's why I'm saying good policy makes good politics, and people vote their pocketbook. Government can't do anything better, in my estimation, for affordability than give people back the money that government is over collecting, and then telling them that earning money is not a bad thing, and to go and to earn as much as you want because you'll get to keep it. And then it's up to you when you get taxed in a way with that, because if sales taxes are a mechanism and it collects a significant amount of money in Arkansas for sales tax, we have a 6.5% state sales tax. But you get to decide when you're going to get taxed. If you want to save your money and not get taxed on it, you can. You invest it. There's still some capital gains taxes that you have to pay if you make a dividend on that. But overall, you don't get taxed until you see the item you want and you're willing to pay for it in that 6.5 sales tax as well. So, this is the conversations that we're having, the great back and forth that Grassroots has given us. But in general, in the majority, overall, the consensus is, yes, I would prefer to have zero state income tax and then spend that money how I need to spend it for my family. And that's just growing momentum each week.
All right, let's get our final break. We'll go a little bit early and pay some bills, and then we'll come back and finish it up here on the Dave Ellswick Show, 101.1 The Answer.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council. We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
When I met both of them, it was like my missing pieces were found. It was just like an instant, these are my kids. If you're considering adopting a teen, just do it. Kids need families. I don't care the age. Everybody deserves a family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Did you hear Congressman Bruce Westerman on the Dave Ellswick Show?
I've gotten input from constituents about, they don't like this. They don't like endless wars. They don't want Americans dying over there anymore. But the question you got to ask is, what does that mean for the future? You go fight this war right now and you cut the head off of the snake right now, or you wait and the war comes to us, or it's a much bigger war and there's a lot more at risk and at stake in the future. So again, I think this is long overdue, and I think every effort was made to try to do it through negotiations. And I think the history with Iran and the Ayatollah is they negotiate, and they never make a deal. And if they make a deal, it's always to their advantage. And Trump doesn't play like that.
Don't miss Congressman Westerman, Wednesday mornings at 7:30 on the Dave Ellswick Show, 101.1. The Answer.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
We're keeping Arkansas beautiful. Want to lend a hand? Don't be afraid to get them dirty. Every day, volunteers around the state are picking up litter, planting trees and wildflowers, recycling, and more. You know what these volunteers need most? Help. Volunteer today at keeparkansasbeautiful.com. Learn more about all our programs. A message brought to you by the Keep Arkansas Beautiful Commission, this station, and the Arkansas Broadcasters Association.
Now, back to the Dave Ellswick Show, 101.1. The Answer.
All right, it's 12 minutes until 9 o'clock. We got 12 more minutes with Ryan Norris from Americans for Prosperity. He's the Arkansas chairman of that group, and we've told you about some of the things that are coming up. Run over what's going to happen next week.
Yeah, so next week we have Grover Norquist in. He's going to be meeting with some of the grassroots groups. Of course, there's the Central Arkansas Conservative Coalition. He will be speaking at that. That's the ATR, Americans for Tax Reform luncheon group. Grover hosts that, I think, every Wednesday in D.C., and ours here in Arkansas is on the third Thursday. So he's going to be here for that. Meeting with the lawmakers. We're having an event for lawmakers called Capital Leaders, in which Grover will be speaking, and we'll be going over some of these policies that we're talking about, like, can Arkansas actually cut its income tax down to zero? And what are the mechanisms to do that? And how can we ensure that we have the revenues to run government, take care of its core responsibilities, and also not take out of the people's pockets what they've earned? So that'll be a conversation. Then he will be in Bentonville with us for our Pathway to Zero event with some lawmakers. Our host lawmaker is Representative Mindy McClendon, and she'll be kind of our host for this. Grover will be there to present, and then we're talking to the grassroots and other lawmakers and stakeholders about this. Growing momentum for this concept. The Arkansas cannot be left behind while other states are making moves. We need to do something urgently to say that we're serious to stay competitive in this space. So we're not asking for the tax cut to zero to happen overnight. It will be when the Arkansas economic growth and the revenue surplus from that growth is, once it's realized, then we can again project that against the future. Will that be equal to or less than future projections for revenue? And if so, then we're able to make that cut. And we know we can make that happen. Arkansas also sits on some really decent reserves that we're not advocating to change that, to dip into those, to cut taxes, keep that. We need to have some safety net for economic downturns. We currently have a global situation that affects Arkansas. There's been actually several things. There's trade policy that affects the Arkansas economy. There are international foreign affairs like, police actions in other parts of the country, of the world, like in Iran right now, that affect the Arkansas economy in different ways. Sometimes positively, sometimes negatively, these things play our direction. But in all, again, we're in a good spot, and among the states to pass policy like this, we're kind of at an advantage because our governors and our legislatures have ran a pretty tight ship in terms of making us our fiscally sustainable and doing the right moves that way. So that sets us up for this conversation. I think right now at this time, can we get to zero? The answer is, I believe, yes. Over time, it could take years to get there, but let's get that journey started today.
Yeah, if you're going to journey, you got to put one foot in front of the other to get there.
Yeah, and we're basically halfway there. We're at the halfway point. There was, I think it was called The Patriot. It was a TV show. Did you ever see this?
Yeah.
Okay. He said something in there. It was kind of a dramedy kind of thing, but he always said, go 50% plus one step.
Uh-huh.
And the logic behind it, and people are like, why in the world would you say that? He's like, because no matter how difficult the journey was, if you can do 50% of it plus one step, it's easier to go forward.
Yeah, you move forward
than it is
not
to go
backwards.
backwards. And so Arkansas is about at that 50. We just need to make that one extra step. And when we do that, we will know that we'll finish this race.
Yeah, that means that you may tilt the scale so that you're going downhill instead of continuing uphill.
Yeah, right.
By getting started, by doing that one step, the rest of the steps become progressively easier.
Yeah.
To do.
Yes. And then there's other policies that would help Arkansas to realize those revenues. So, for example, I've had conversations with lawmakers about affordable housing. When housing is abundant and people are moving here and it's a lower cost because we have more supply, then that helps with the economic growth of the state. You can even say that certain policies regarding healthcare access helps with the economic growth of the state, both within the industry, but also in people being healthier and being able to work more or longer as much as they want, to, again, contribute to the economic growth of the state. What I like about this idea, too, is that when business comes in and they say, okay, well, if they have the revenue, then they can trigger the tax cut. So the more successful that we are as a business in contributing to the economy and the economic growth and hiring more people and all that, that just means that we can achieve those surpluses faster and therefore cut sooner. And so you kind of create, if you set this up in this kind of format as policy, you create incentive for people to want to drive towards success, because the more successful they are, the more they get to keep of that success, be that through their earnings or their profits or however that is. Plus, it's not just on the individual income, you and me as employees, but a lot of small businesses are pass-through companies that pay individual income tax through the way their companies. So they don't pay a corporate tax; they pay a tax as an individual, right. And so this would help them to hire more people. We asked some small business, like, what would that mean? Well, I could hire an extra teenager to help me after school at my restaurant or whatever that they might need for their business. If I had that additional money, that would actually help me and would help them. So lots of positives. The most of the pushback, though, Dave, is coming from those who think that government doesn't collect enough money, or that there's programs out there that government should be investing in that are of higher priority than the taxpayer.
I can't believe that there's some people out there who think that the government is not collecting enough.
There is that. There are actually those.
I mean, that's amazing.
They're not on our side of the ledger, but there are those that are pushing back on social media and such. It's like, Arkansas is just not collecting enough taxes, and we need to do a millionaire's taxes or whatever those may be. Those are all very wrong-headed, shown to not
don't work.
And you do not try to stifle success or, someone's initiative and drive. I had a conversation with my wife. I was like, if we wanted to be millionaires. We easily could, but are we willing to live a life like many millionaires lived, where their work is 24/7, 365? And she's like, no. I'm like, okay, well, there's our answer there. We're not willing to make that sacrifice for our family to get into that kind of bracket. Not that we're really there. It was a thought experiment, by the way, but just, are you willing to put in for it?
Right.
To make that happen. And in America, that is the American dream, is rags to riches, and that can happen. But what helps families that aren't even on the trajectory for being multimillionaires or whatever, is that whatever you earn, you look at that number that you're paying into the state, and if that was zero on your taxes, what could you do with that money for your family? It could put you a down payment on a car. It could help with the groceries. It could help with the rising costs of energy, all of those things. So argument is, the time is now. Other states are doing it. Affordability is a midterm issue, and Arkansas needs to pass something that tells voters that they care about that, and that Arkansas actually can afford to do this over time when done responsibly.
It also means that if you cut taxes, continue to cut taxes, and bring more people to Arkansas, those people are going to bring in more money into the state, and perhaps you don't have to cut as many things as you thought you were going to have to cut.
Yeah. Right. And, there's some things, Dave, we talked about this, that government does that community could do better. And so
I agree with that.
That's additional conversation to have, but appreciate being on today, Dave. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. We're out of time. For somebody who wants to join up with you, what's the phone number again?
Well, go to believenar.com, go to the contact us, and you can reach us there. You can call me at 501-515-2195 or info@afphq.org.
And you can go there and find out about everything that's being planned for next week with Grover as well. All right, let's take a break. I'll be back after the news, and let's pick up about what Trump is doing in Iran when we get back here on the Dave Ellswick Show.
This is the Dave Ellswick Show. Find him on Twitter and on Facebook at Dave Ellswick Show. Dave Ellswick Show. Find us at 1011FM, theanswer.com. Download our apps, stream us 24/7, or watch us at snc.tv. KDXE, Kamek Village, Little Rock.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. Amit Thomason. Iran stands alone, and they are losing. The words of Terry Abor Hegseth, delivering a war update this morning. He adds this will be the most intense day of strikes inside Iran. President Trump says Operation Epic Fury is progressing more rapidly than expected. He predicts it could end soon. As the BBC's Hashear Jonadeh reports, Mr. Trump is threatening Iran with a devastating response if it disrupts tanker traffic through the strategic Strait of Hormuz.
In response to this gesturing from Iran, President Trump has issued a very strong and angry message on Truth Social, in which he's warned that if Iran stops the flow of oil from the Strait of Hormuz, it will be hit 20 times harder than what it has already been hit with. And then added that Iran will face with death, fire, and fury in such case.
The president says the U.S. had to take action against because of its stubborn refusal to give up its quest for nuclear weapons.
They were starting work at another site, a different kind of a site, and that was protected by granite. They wanted it protected. Granite's pretty good, but they wanted it protected by a lot deeper They wanted to go a lot deeper, and they started the process.
Iran, meanwhile, has been firing more drones, more missiles at Israel, as well as Gulf Arab countries. And gas prices continue to rise. As of this morning, AAA's national average for a gallon of regular, $3.54. That's up 6 cents a gallon from yesterday. The average in California, $5.29. The FAA briefly grounded all JetBlue flights earlier today because of a request from the airline. The ground stop was lifted after about 40 minutes. On Wall Street, the Dow's down 173 points, NASDAQ up 30 points. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Hey, I am Brant, and her name is Sherry, and she's a friend and a colleague of mine, and we were just praying for her, actually, because she had a major surgery she just went through.
Yes, and I am very happy about something you actually talk about all the time, which is MediShare. That's right,
of course.
Yeah.
So what was your experience like with MediShare and your healthcare bills?
You know what? It was seamless, and that's such a blessing when you're already nervous about a health issue, which I was.
Yeah.
Members shared my expenses. There were zero problems, and let me tell you, having people pray with you when you call in, and it's just what you need. It's so refreshing.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling people. People love MediShare and saving tons of money. The typical family, I'm fond of saying, can save $500 a month.
I am so thankful for MediShare. It's so different, and I mean different in a very, very good way, Brant.
It is a good different. Call right now. They're so easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 844-94-BIBLE. That's 844-94-BIBLE. 844-94-BIBLE.
China reports its exports rose almost 22% in the first 2 months of the year, while trade with the U.S. shrank. Surging exports of computer chips and autos helped to drive the increase. The export figures released by China's customs agency are much better than economists had been expecting. They far exceed the 6.6% growth in December. China's exports have been a bright spot for its economy. Despite tension with the U.S., China's exports climbed 5.5% for 2025 as its trade surplus surged to a record of almost $1.2 trillion. Higher shipments to other regions, including Europe and Latin America, helped to offset a drop in exports to the U.S. French President Macron has visited Cyprus in a show of support days after a drone hit a British base on the island. It was the first drone attack on European territory during the war going on in Iran. News and analysis, townhall.com. It began innocently enough, but ended in tragedy in Gainesville, Georgia. Correspondent Keith Peters explains.
A Georgia high school teacher is dead after teenagers pulled a late-night prank outside his home. The Hall County Sheriff's Office said teenagers went to 40-year-old Jason Hughes' home late Friday night to roll his yard with toilet paper. It says Hughes came outside as the teens were leaving, and he tripped and fell into the street where one of the teens struck him with a pickup truck. The 18-year-old driver of the pickup has been charged with a felony count of vehicular homicide. 4 other teens were charged with trespassing and littering. Hughes' family said in a statement that he knew and loved the teens and that they want all charges dropped. Keith Peters, Washington.
Team USA advances in the World Baseball Classic. This after defeating Mexico 5-3 in Houston. The U.S. improves to 3-0 and will meet Italy later today. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Something big is happening, and you need to be in the know. Operation Epic Fury is here, and the only place to get all the details. Stay tuned and listen closely for updates on Operation Epic Fury on 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
Up in Your Business with Carrie McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com.
Through storytelling, conversational interviews, and Carrie's natural curiosity, this weekly radio show and podcast offers listeners an insider's view into the commonalities of entrepreneurs, athletes, medical professionals, politicians, and other successful people, all sharing their stories of success and the ups and downs of risk-taking.
Up in Your Business with Carrie McCoy, Saturdays at 2 and Sundays at 10 on 101.1 The Answer.
If things don't change, can you imagine America in 20 years? Scary thought, isn't it? The good news is we have the power to take our nation back. Stay right here for all the information you need. 101.1 The Answer. In his new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, Dinesh D'Souza brings the new Middle East into focus.
Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be somehow tied to this place?
At long last, we have peace in the Middle East.
Israel and Christians are coming together in a way they have never been before.
But is this the end of Hamas and radical Islam? The Dragon's Prophecy is powerful, prophetic, a must-see movie. Now available on Amazon, YouTube, and iTunes.
All right, back at 9 o'clock here on the Dave Ellswick Show. We move into the third hour of a Tuesday edition. Tomorrow, of course, Wednesday, we'll start off with Congressman French Hill and then Congressman Westerman will be with us, and we'll talk to them about Iran and a lot of other things, the midterm elections and whatnot. That will be up in the first hour starting tomorrow. But right now, Michael White's going to join us. He is Saline County's election guru, and good to have him on the air. Mike, I had just basically two questions to talk to you about. We had a long discussion yesterday about the runoff elections that are coming up here shortly. Who can vote in the runoff elections? How is that all set up?
All right. Well, it's a great question. And for many people, it has been as clear as milk lately, Mr. Ellswick. So the law is established in Title VII, which governs our election laws. It's 7-1-103, 18B for anyone who'd like to look it up. And it reads, no person shall cast a ballot or vote in the preferential primary of one political party and then cast a ballot or vote in the general primary of another political party in this state. And what that simply means is if you voted in the preferential primary for on the Republican ballot or the Democrat ballot, come a general primary, you cannot vote in the other.
Okay.
It gets a little bit complicated when we talk about the semi-closed primary the Republican Party of Arkansas currently has. And so it really works like this. If you did not vote at all in the preferential primary, at all, you can vote in the general primary on the Republican ballot unless you are a registered Democrat. If you voted as a Republican in the preferential primary, you can vote in the Republican general primary. Again, obviously, if you voted nonpartisan in the preferential primary, you can vote in the Republican general primary. Here's where it gets complicated, even another layer. If you are a registered Democrat in Arkansas and you did not vote in the preferential primary and you would like to vote in the Republican general primary, you can show up at the polls and you can change your voter information right there on the spot and you can vote in it. And that's a thing that a lot of people don't really understand how it works or why it works that way. We could get into that if you'd like to. It involves sort of a state constitutional amendment, some poll worker instructions, and also some federal stuff. But I hope I made that even maybe a little more clear for you, Dave.
No, it sounds like to me, if you voted in the primary just earlier this week, that if you voted Democrat, you can't go back on the 31st of this month and vote in the runoff and vote Republican. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So that was my biggest question, and it seemed to be one of the big questions yesterday. Did that seem like to you, Val, the one that everybody wanted clarification on?
Yeah, and then the other question regarding why Pulaski County is
well,
different.
yeah, I just hadn't gotten to that yet. I wanted to get this cleared first. Okay, so I think we got this cleared. Now, Michael, Val went and voted in Pulaski County. When I voted in Faulkner County in Cabot, I went to the table. I showed my ID. They ran it. I had voted before. They had all my information. And then they showed me and said, which are you? And it said, I guess it wasn't independent. It was something else.
Nonpartisan.
Yeah, nonpartisan.
Nonpartisan Democrat.
And that's the three that I got. And of course, I hit Republican. They gave me a Republican ballot. I went to the machine. I put in the paper into the machine, and I proceeded to vote for the different candidates. And I think there was one other thing that needed to be voted on where they were asking for us to give more money to the school system of Cabot, which I voted against. And then after that was done, it brought up on the screen, here's what you voted for. Is this correct? And I looked at it and I thought, yep, that's what I voted for. And I hit yes. And then it kicked out another form to me. And I took that form, which showed on the form who I had voted for, and put it in the tabulator. And then I left. Val wasn't given the form that you put into the tabulator.
In Pulaski County.
In Pulaski County.
So to clarify, Val, did you vote on election day or
Yes.
did you vote during early voting?
We both voted on election day, yes.
That might be why it's a little confusing. Pulaski County, during early voting, the 14 days of early voting, we have vote centers, which are, again, aggregations of precincts, and we use electronic voting methods. We have the same way that you checked in, Dave. You check in on an electronic poll book. You select what type of ballot you would like. An individual then prints off a little slip of paper that cues that voting machine you go to tell you what races to vote on. You vote on those races. It then spits out that piece of paper with all the stuff you voted on, and then you go put it in the tabulator.
Mm-hmm.
During election day in Pulaski County, one, because of our size and the requirements of how many voters have to have access to a certain poll, and two, sort of some quorum court money things, as I understand it, we have paper ballots on election day in Pulaski County. So, Val, when you checked in on election day, the check-in process was very similar. However, the difference begins with how the poll worker gives you a ballot. They would actually give you a hand ballot, which you would have filled out with a pen, like, little bubbles like the Scantrons we had in school.
Yes.
And then you would have taken that over to a machine called a DS200, the same tabulator, and fed it into sort of the bigger hopper at the top.
Yes.
That's why. And again, it's important to understand when it comes to election stuff, and I love that people are getting more involved in it and want to know how it works, that we are dealing with multiple layers of complexity here. You have a state issue from the legislature. You have, of course, county issues. And, of course, you have a federal question. There is an organization called the EAC at a federal level that sets standards for a number of our voting equipment. And, of course, we're always wanting that federal money as a state, whether we like that or not, right? And so we end up sort of in a place where there's multiple overlapping things that have to occur in certain ways. Look, Val, I'm with you. I would like it to all be uniform. It would make my job a lot easier.
Well, it would make it seem like it was more legit if it was all done the same way, especially since the state's paying for it.
Well, you are 100% correct. And we could get into a political, philosophical discussion of whether we should even have the taxpayer paying for primaries at all.
Exactly.
But yes, that is the issue, is that Pulaski County is obviously Arkansas's most populous county.
Which is another problem.
Yes, it
because
is.
That really makes me think something crazy and fishy is going on.
Well, I'll tell you this. I've seen behind the curtain pretty well. And the places where things can be messed up really isn't necessarily in direct tabulation. It's going to be an indirect tabulation, geographic changes, individuals being given wrong ballot styles. Those are the places where there's legitimate problems. And in fact, there's a felony prosecution in Pulaski County for an individual in the county clerk's office in the last election cycle that was allegedly intentionally changing geographic information to where individuals got different polls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember that. But my problem is that how do I know that the machine registered my bubbles correctly unless I get a printout?
One is, I don't think you do. You have to there's a faith in a process there. Two, I want to remind everybody listening, contrary to rumor, it is completely legal for you to take a picture of your completed ballot on your cell phone.
Which I did.
Okay,
but that doesn't, I don't know if that registers in the system correctly though.
Well, that's correct. In fact, how do we know that anything gets counted correctly once it's behind a black box, right?
You get a printout to say that it did, right? That's what I don't understand. Why is Pulaski so different?
Even if you voted early, you wouldn't get a printout after you had turned your tabulation in.
But every other county does.
I'm not aware that every other county does that. I thought the process worked the same way. I could be wrong on that. But again, also remember that your elections commissions in your counties are ministerial bodies. There's very small places where they're allowed interpretation of the law. We really have to do what the quorum court directs us to do, what the legislature directs us to do, and of course what the judiciary directs us to do. If that was a choice that I could make different, I certainly would. But right now, I can't even get that stupid little box off the screen. And I've been trying to do that my entire time here, and we keep being told that we can't do that. But yeah, I hope that answers the question to the best of your ability. I know that you don't like that answer, but these are questions, again, I would reach out to your quorum court representative first and ask them about how money and process is allocated to the election commission. And then if you'd like to, also talk to the state boards, because we're always looking to improve this process. I think that there's a number of problems that do reduce voter confidence that need to be addressed 100%.
All right. We're going to take a break, and then Michael can come back and finish up our conversation with you. Are you all right with that?
I'm good for one more segment, Dave. That sounds perfect.
Okay, we'll do one more segment. Michael White, he is an Arkansas Election Commission member, and we'll talk to him further when we return here on the Dave Ellswick Show.
Parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council. We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
When I met both of them, it was like my missing pieces were found. It was just like an instant, these are my kids. If you're considering adopting a teen, just do it. Kids need families. I don't care the age. Everybody deserves a family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
What is dedication?
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is Dariana. We call him Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's attention, affection, knowledge. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. The craziest thing was believing that your dad knew everything. So as a dad, you felt like you had to know everything. You had to get everything right. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then, it kind of starts to work itself out. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
There's a real battle going on, not only for our future, but that of our children and grandchildren. How do we ensure they have it better than we do? One way is to keep listening to us. We're your information source in the battle. 101.1, The Answer. The Dave Ellswick Show is back. 101.1, The Answer.
All right, joining me here in the last segment of this first half hour of the 9 o'clock hour is Michael White, Arkansas Election Commission, and he's trying to clear up all the questions about the last election. We had a couple yesterday, and he's done a good job of straightening us out on what was going on during that time and who can vote and who can't vote in the next election, which is the runoff for Secretary of State. You might have a runoff for sheriff as well in the area that you're at. So, it's something to keep in mind about if you voted Republican, let's say, in the primary, how's that? And then you want to vote again in the runoff, you got to vote for this in the same party that you voted in the primary, not the opposite party. With that in mind, were you guys kind of caught off guard by how many people turned out this last election day?
We weren't necessarily caught off guard as much as it was just, in Pulaski County, for instance, we were running two separate legal elections, right? We're running the preferential primary, and then, of course, we had the House district. 70 special election that was running concurrent. And so that made it a little more complicated. What we did see, obviously, is we saw a sort of a quote-unquote uptick in Democrat voters by a pretty significant number. But Dave, here's what I believe that number is attributed to. I believe that number is attributed to, personally, the semi-closed primary rule of the Republican Party. There was a lot of information out there from the Democrat messaging side that told Democrat voters that they could not vote in the Republican primary. Now, they technically could. They could change their registration at the polling site if they'd like to.
See, that was not communicated correctly. That was not communicated correctly at all. We were told that we had until February 2nd to change anything on our registration.
Yeah, that's not correct. And also, I mean, first off, the Secretary of State has a 2026 memo that came out that was in regards to it. The legal authority for changes to your voter registration comes from the 51st Amendment of the Arkansas Constitution, specifically Section 10 and Section 6. It also, of course, gives authority to the State Board of Election Commissioners to state process, which they do. And then, of course, we have the National Voter Registration Act, which is a federal law that oversees sort of state statutes. And because Arkansas does not have a legislative lockout period, 30, 90 days for registration, individuals are allowed to change that information, any voter status information, at the polling site. Now, the process that happens is you go in, you would say, hey, I want to vote this way. They will hand you a new voter application. You will be allowed to vote that day. And that voter application is supposed to go to the county clerk's office in your respective county and then be recorded. I say supposed to because there has been some questions in the past of whether or not those county clerks are maybe necessarily processing those. I can't say whether they are or not, but that's just how the process actually works in person. I mean, it actually works in principle. But yes, there was some communication issues there from a number of places. And so to answer the question, I think the reason we saw an uptick in Democrat ballots pulled is because Democrats believe that's all they could pull.
Right, because I don't think they knew they could ask.
I don't believe that they did. And so, for instance, when we looked at the last report, I want to say that most elections, it seemed like it was around 1-to-1, 1.1-to-1, 1.2-to-1 in Pulaski County. And it was something like almost like 2-to-1 at one point in time. And so again, and the number of voters wasn't that much larger. I mean, it was, a little bit, higher, but it wasn't significantly like double or anything. So I think that's really what it came down to.
So have you heard what the percentage of registered voters who turned out for the primary was?
I have it in a report here. I think it was 27.11%. In Pulaski County, there's 233,000 registered voters, roughly 234,000, and we had 63,403 show up. I think the nominal average is somewhere around the mid-20s, so we're about a 2 to 3% uptick.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that more people are paying attention. I expected Democrats to be more, how do we put this, ready to go at the polls this year than they were in the last election that they voted for, considering they had Harris as the presidential opportunist that she was. But anyway,
right? Exactly.
We're looking at what do you think is going to happen come November? Do you think it'll be up a little bit more even?
I mean, midterms are a tricky animal, Dave. As you know, you have commentated on them much longer than I have been involved in them. So you've probably forgotten more about political strategy than I've ever learned, or to be quite honest, I think that like anything, situation dictates motivation. If things are good for a lot of people, they tend not to get off the couch. If things feel bad for people or they feel urgent, they tend to get off the couch. And it always depends on what that group is or how that works out. With as fast as things change in our news cycle, I don't know if anybody can call 2 weeks from now, much less, November.
Okay. I appreciate you, Michael. Thanks for joining us today. We'll have you on again before November.
Pleasure.
You have a good day.
Sir. Have a great one.
All right. Bye-bye now. 9:25 here on a Tuesday. I hope that it's clearer than milk now.
It's infuriating that people were lied to, though. That people didn't know.
Oh, you mean the Democratic Party?
Yeah. That could have changed the whole election.
Maybe they didn't. It wasn't that they
No,
lied.
I'm on both sides. I hear what they say. And the Democrats were telling people that they couldn't vote in that either.
Well, was it because they knew that was false, or did they think that was the truth?
They thought it was the truth.
Okay.
Because they were telling people that they couldn't vote unless they changed their option to optional by the 2nd of February.
Okay.
Which is what everyone was told.
Well, I would suggest that it just shows that the Democrat Party is out of sync with election proceedings.
Well, I mean, I thought
and
the
they
same
have
thing.
been
I went
for
down
years.
there. I went down there and made sure mine was on the 2nd, February 2nd. I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Because the message on both sides, because that's what they wanted the message to be, though.
Okay. Well, you got there. You got to vote. That's good.
Yep.
That's good. I had no problems at all. So kudos to Cabot. I voted at the library. And kudos to the election people in Lonoke County because they got it right. So we give them credit. All right. So that's good. I'm glad that I know folks in my county did a good job. And it didn't take long. I'm just telling you, it was fast.
No, there was nobody at the polls when I went.
Well, there were a lot of people there when I was there, but they moved them through very, very quickly. I got there, got in the far left lane, and that's where you went to. And you gave them your ID, and then they gave you your ballot. And as soon as I stepped out of that line, there was a lady that said, "Are you ready to vote, sir?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she says, "Right here." And she took me to the machine, and I voted. The whole process, 10 minutes at the most. So I'm glad. So I was worried we're going to have 30 people lined up, and it was going to take forever to get through.
Yeah,
and it didn't. So I give them credit. They were ready, and they were able to take care of everything. Now, that's for the primary, and let's see what it's like for the general.
Right. I'm also a little bit disappointed that our Secretary of State didn't call us back, and we had to go to other people because his job is to disseminate how elections work to the people.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem: if they think it's going to be hard questions, they don't. I mean, not everybody's like Thurston.
Yeah.
Just put it that way. He's
clearly
one of the most transparent politicians I've ever dealt with. And you can ask him any kind of question. And if he doesn't have the answer, he says, I'll have to get around to you on that. And by at least my show the next day, he's ready to talk about it and to clarify everything. So he's great. He's a great guy.
Yeah, no, I love John.
I don't worry about my money here in the state anymore either. And I didn't before.
No.
So anyway.
That way back to... We worried about our money with people like Martha Schaffner, Miss Pie Box. Remember that one?
Yeah, I need some cherry pie. That's what I need.
Just kickbox in a pie box.
That was amazing. That was an amazing story. Right? It really was. And all that money that was ferried to her
insane
with the pie.
Insane.
Yeah.
I wonder if she ate the pie.
I don't know. Maybe for a celebration. Because there were several $1,000s in each one of those boxes. All right. We got news coming up. We're going to get to that. When we come back, I'm going to pick up stories about, I had promised you that we would keep close eye on what's going on in Iran. Some things have happened that I want to bring you up on. And the president has thrown down the gauntlet this time, big time, with the Iranian government. So we'll talk about that when we come back on the Dave Ellswick Show.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. A short-term excursion, that's one way President Trump describes the Iran war. Iran, meanwhile, continues firing drones not only at Israel, but at some of its Arab League neighbors, including Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. Secretary of War Hegseth, in his war update this morning, says it's clear that Iran is losing the conflict. He says the Islamic Republic has been cut off from its neighbors and former allies and continues to suffer losses in the war. President Trump has told House Republicans that they should stand firm on the Save America Act. That's the election integrity bill opposed by the Democrats. And the president threatens a legislative blockade until the Save America Act passes Congress. Georgia voters going to the polls today. They're choosing a successor to Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. On Wall Street, the Dow down 173. More details, srnnews.com.
Hey, I am Brant, and her name is Sherry, and she's a friend and a colleague of mine, and we were just praying for her, actually, because she had a major surgery she just went through.
Yes, and I am very happy about something you actually talk about all the time, which is Medi-Share. That's right.
Of course.
Yeah.
So what was your experience like with Medi-Share and your healthcare bills?
You know what? It was seamless, and that's such a blessing when you're already nervous about a health issue, which I was.
Yeah.
Members shared my expenses. There were zero problems, and let me tell you, having people pray with you when you call in, and it's just what you need. It's so refreshing.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling people. People love Medi-Share and saving tons of money. The typical family, I'm fond of saying, could save $500 a month.
I am so thankful for Medi-Share. It's so different. And I mean different in a very, very good way, Brant.
It is a good different. Call right now. They're so easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 844-94-BIBLE. That's 844-94-BIBLE. 844-94-BIBLE.
Hey now, if you've got mice, they're having a great time. So if you see one, you can bet there's two. And where there's two, and baby doesn't just make three, it's more like 5 or 6. So if you hear them getting down inside your walls, call the Bug Man at 663-9464 or go to bugman.com.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-522-2174. 800-522-2174. 800-522-2174.
Something big is happening, and you need to be in the know. Operation Epic Fury is here, and the only place to get all the details. Stay tuned and listen closely for updates on Operation Epic Fury on 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Don't miss out on the latest news. Operation Epic Fury is here, and we're giving you the inside information. Make sure you're listening for all the details on Operation Epic Fury, right here on 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
All right, 26.
The conservative voice of Arkansas, the Dave Ellswick Show on 101.1 The Answer.
All right, you're at my show. And I just told you before we took the break that I'd bring you up to the latest on what's going on with Epic Fury. That's something I wanted to do today because we didn't talk much about it yesterday. We got into local politics yesterday. But Trump has been talking to the press and said that he is optimistic now that the joint operation is ahead of its own projected timelines. That's from the Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal went on to report that President Trump said the Iran war will be over very soon, but that the U.S. military campaign still has further to go. At a Monday press conference, he said, we've been achieving major strikes towards completing our military objective. We could call it a tremendous success right now, or we could go further, and we're going to go the further distance. He didn't get into the specifics of what that meant. Earlier, he signaled in an interview with CBS News that the Iran war is very complete, pretty much done, a sign that he may soon call an end to the bombing campaign. So that was what he had been reported also by the Wall Street Journal. let's hope we get a definitive win before the bombing stops. And there was some information that came from CNBC. Quote, we've wiped every single force in Iran out very completely, the president said at his Trump's National Doral Club near Miami, where he touted the destruction of more than 50 Iranian naval ships and decimation of its air force and anti-aircraft defenses. They have no leadership. It's all been blown up, he said. Well, you know that there was the first bombs that dropped in the Fury exercise or operation, killed Khomeini and 40 other people that were top officials. And then a couple of days later, Israel hit a tower and took out another guy that was wanting to take over, and he had the rest of the leadership in there with him at the building, and so we decapitated their leadership. Asked if the war would end this week, Trump said no, but added very soon. He proceeded to threaten further military action if he deems it necessary, and said the U.S. has not yet hit some of Iran's most sensitive targets, including its electricity infrastructure. So that was by CNBC. The oil prices that had gone up starkly on Monday, later on during the day, tumbled significantly. I talked about this in the 7 o'clock hour today. NBC reported after having soared as much as 32% overnight to $119 per barrel, the price of U.S. crude oil plunged about 5% to around $86 per barrel by 3 in the afternoon our time. International Brent crude oil also dropped by more than 3.5% to less than $89 per barrel. U.S. equities markets also sharply reversed. The S&P 500, which had fallen as much as 1.5%, ended the day higher by almost a full percent, 0.83%. So that's almost a 2.5% turnaround. The NASDAQ Composite, which earlier tumbled as much as 1.4%, ended today in the green by 1.38%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average clawed back. They lost in the morning early trading 880 points. That's the drop that happened. But by the afternoon, we'd already clawed back past that 880, gotten back to zero again, and then added 239 points to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So it was a green day on the board yesterday, even though having the problems that we're having in the Gulf right now. This is not like what it was back in the 70s. Not even close. I mean, by you talk about the 70s and the gas crisis, what happened is, American Oil at that time had about almost 2/3 of their wells topped. They almost were. They weren't, drill baby drill at that point, and that caused oil to go way up, and caused the making of gasoline to go up as well. And that's why we had to go to, what was the last number of your license plate, so that's the day. If your license plate was an even number, you got to fill up on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If it was an odd number, you did Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I mean, it was crazy. If you didn't live through it, it was crazy. And I remember people literally having to push their cars into the pumps.
Yeah, that's crazy.
To fill them up and be able to run their cars again. That's why I always, it's just a carryover from that time. I don't let my
fill it up.
My gas gauge get below a quarter tank. I always fill it up.
I think people that have been through things like that, like I went through Hurricane Sally, where we didn't have gas for a week, and generators stuff. I think we tend to shift more towards filling our tank up because you never know what's going to happen.
It's called just being for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it all came down to, being for sure.
Plus, I hate getting out and doing it again.
What do you think about this thing that went down in New York City?
Mondami?
Yeah, but these guys that supposedly were working for ISIS.
Well, but then he's trying to say it's white supremacists.
Well, I don't care. I don't care what he says. I'm caring what the terrorists said.
Well, what I think is he's a Muslim and he's siding with LGBT and things of that nature, and not punishing them like Muslim says. I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, literally, they're the ones that helped him get elected, which is crazy to me. But so I think maybe he didn't do what he was supposed to do. Maybe he was sent there to do something from ISIS, like a cell. Maybe he didn't do it, so now they're going to show him.
Well, what's interesting is that he would not say the word Islam. When he was talked and people would ask about these guys that had, done what they did, and he wouldn't use the word Islam until late in the day.
Yeah, because he kept saying that he didn't want people to believe them. That's what I think. I think there's something fishy.
Yeah,
connected to him.
For instance, on Sunday, he was just doing this mealy mouth thing where he was denouncing the organizer of a right-wing anti-Muslim rally, but not directly commenting on the alleged bomb tossers. Adami, the first Muslim mayor of the city, railed against the anti-Muslim protesters, but did not mention that the counter-protesters were allegedly self-radicalized by ISIS videos.
Muslims.
Yeah. And there's one thing that, I want to talk about this a little bit about, being a Muslim and being an Islamist. It's different when you say you're an Islamist than if you say you're a Muslim. Islamists tend to be more radical, more aggressive, and willing to do crazy stuff. And I usually don't use the word stuff at that point, to make their point. It's what's going on right now over in Iran, where the president says to the mullahs over there, "Hey, we're not going to let son of the Khomeini take over there. He's an Islamist."
Right.
Islamists, they mix everything together in their religion, politics, and everything. A Muslim may not do that. That's what Trump is watching.
They might be so radical.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. The lady that was put in charge over in Venezuela isn't 100% a person who supports America by any stretch of the imagination, but she wants to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
She's not willing to sacrifice herself on her religious beliefs or whatever. So
separate the two.
Yeah, you got to. It's the same way when we fought Japan. You had the Bushido Code guys, and then you just had the poor schmo. They got caught up in the draft or whatever and went to war, and then was told when he got there, "Hey, oh, by the way, you can't surrender. You got to die for the cause." And there were some people that didn't want to die for the cause. A lot did, but normally they didn't want to die for the cause. So anyway, there's differences in the people that we're dealing with there. When you deal with an Islamist, you're dealing with a Bushido kind of guy, or
suicide.
Woman. Yeah, you got somebody who will die for the cause. Madami, first Muslim mayor of the city here, railed against the anti-Muslim protesters. He again stopped short of condemning radical Islam in a statement following the unsealing of the criminal complaint. That, according to the New York Post, Kevin McCullough addressed the reticence to speak of motives. And let me just quote Kevin here. If we refuse to confront what is happening today, if we continue pretending that motives are mysterious and extremists are merely misunderstood, we will wake up one day in a country where expressing disagreement is treated as provocation and violence becomes the accepted response. And once that happens, the republic we inherited will not disappear overnight. It will simply stop breathing. Or as they said in Star Wars, it will end with a simple clap. And that's what it was all about in Star Wars. You can kind of place that into this whole thing of what's going on during the top. Now, the terrorists spoke for themselves. The New York City Police Commissioner, Jessica Tisch, connected the dots that the mayor would not connect. From her press statement on Monday, after Amir Balet and Ibrahim Kayuma were charged, said as they were being placed into an NYPD vehicle following the arrest, a person in the crowd asked, which one was it? Ibrahim asked him why he had done this. As shown on the New York Police Department body-worn camera footage referenced in the complaint, he responded with ISIS. I did it for ISIS. And at the precinct, after being advised of his Miranda rights and waiving those rights, he said in recorded post-arrest statements that he had watched ISIS propaganda on his phone and that his actions that day were partly inspired by ISIS. The complaint also detailed statements made by Amir Balet after his arrest. En route to the NYPD precinct, he made spontaneous statements without being questioned by the New York Police Department officers that were captured on body-worn camera footage. He said, "This isn't a religion that just stands when people talk about the blessed name of the prophet. We take action. We take action. As well as, if I didn't do it, someone else will come and do it." And later, after waiving his rights, he requested paper and wrote a message declaring in part, "I pledge my allegiance to the Islamic State. Die in your rage, you kuffar. Now die in your rage," is a commonly known ISIS slogan. And the kufr is an Arabic term that refers to non-believers. He also told investigators that he had hoped to carry out an attack even bigger than the Boston Marathon bombing, which he noted resulted in only 3 deaths. So it wasn't all that important. So, yeah. See, again, this is the thing that we got to understand about the Islamic State. Let me just read that part. "I pledge my allegiance to the Islamic State. Die in your rage, you person who doesn't believe. Now, die in your rage is a commonly known ISIS slogan, and the kufar is the Arabic term that refers to non-believers. So this is what they do.
Death to all non-believers. Yep.
Yeah, this is what they do. And she also said, quote, "This isn't a religion that just stands when people talk about the blessed name of the prophet. We take action. We take action. As well as, if I didn't do it, someone else will come and do it, for me." So there you got it. That was after he was Mirandized and told what his rights were, and he admitted it right out in the open. All right, final break for this hour here on the Dave Ellswick Show. So, we've got to watch out for people who are Islamists. We do.
I mean, they literally just put this out, and we can talk about that when we come back. But Iranian sleeper cells, U.S. intelligence officials have intercepted encrypted communications that they think is from Iran that can serve as a operational trigger for those sleeper cells I always talk about being here in the United States, just waiting.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot on my show. I mean, in the international, terrorism course that I took in the Air Force, the last thing that they talked about when we were there was the most scariest terrorist that there was out there, and it was the lone wolf. And that's what most of these guys are that we're seeing now.
Especially if a message went out saying now's the time.
Yeah. We've seen it in movies. We've seen it. We've read it in books. It wasn't fabricated when it was in the books nor in the movies. It's something that has always been there, ready to be triggered here in the country. Let's take a break, then we'll come back, talk a little bit more about that before we get to the top of the hour and the news here on the Dave Ellswick Show.
RedState.com captures the pulse of grassroots conservatism. Red State staff of contributors are on top of breaking news with stories and analysis that challenge the established agenda. RedState.com educates, motivates, and activates passionate conservatives across America, arming them with the facts that put them ahead of the political curve. No wonder RedState.com is a must-read for elected officials and for citizens who want to make their vote count. RedState.com is the place where influence meets action. Log on to RedState.com today.
Did you hear Congressman Bruce Westerman on the Dave Ellswick Show?
I've gotten input from constituents about, they don't like this. They don't like endless wars. They don't want Americans dying over there anymore. But the question you got to ask is, what does that mean for the future? Do you go fight this war right now and you cut the head off of the snake right now, or you wait and the war comes to us, or it's a much bigger war and there's a lot more at risk and at stake in the future. So again, I think this is long overdue, and I think every effort was made to try to do it through negotiations. And I think the history with Iran and the Ayatollah is they negotiate, and they never make a deal. And if they make a deal, it's always to their advantage. And Trump doesn't play like that.
Don't miss Congressman Westerman, Wednesday mornings at 7:30 on the Dave Ellswick Show, 101.1. The Answer.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council. We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
When I met both of them, it was like my missing pieces were found. It was just like an instant, these are my kids. If you're considering adopting a teen, just do it. Kids need families. I don't care the age. Everybody deserves a family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
The Dave Ellswick Show continues now. 101.1. The Answer.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the lone wolf or sleeper cells. Again, I was lucky enough while I was in the Air Force. And again, this is going back several years, but it's been something that we've been looking at for a long time. Terrorism is not new. What you had happen, a lot of you don't even probably remember all of the different bombings that took place in Britain by the Irish because, the British were over in Belfast and places like that. And so they brought the war back to Britain. Well, the folks from their Secret Service MI6 and 5 and some of the others, came to that specific class that we took and talked to us about the Minor Bienhoff gang and Red September and some of the others. And they had tried to reason with them first. They tried to reason with them first. And you know what they found out? You can't. You can't reason with them. And so a lot of the people that were in the Irish terrorist groups were planting bombs along roads in Britain. They were blowing up apartment complexes and killing dozens of people at a time, sometimes hundreds. And they sat and talked to us and said, make no mistake about it, the only way you can get rid of them is to shoot them and kill them. You got to kill them. I just heard someone on the news this morning talking about the Islamists over in Iran. They said, they're never going to work with us. They're never going to try to see it our way. That the only way that you'll get rid of them is to kill them because their religion infects everything. And I think it's the right way to call it an infection when they do what they do. It was the same thing with the Bashida Code and all the rest of them that, I'll fight till you die. You don't surrender. You don't do anything. Even if you're beat, you just keep on, killing people. And they were not only killing, the soldiers, but killing civilians and like the Nazis did. I mean, the Nazis went into Czechoslovakia after Poland, and the people who were, going with wanting to see, Czechoslovakia stay Czech and not become Nazified, were lined up in front of big pits that were dug and shot in the back of the head. The only reason that they went to gas is that they couldn't kill people fast enough by shooting them in the back of the head. Plus, if you're the guy that's got to shoot them, there's something about shooting an unarmed person that wreaks havoc with your mental state. They were shipping in alcohol by the hundreds of gallons into Czechoslovakia for the troops to drink before they went out and did what they were being asked to do. We'll talk more about this when we come back. We got to get to the news, and then we'll get to the last hour of the Dave Ellswick Show. 10 o'clock hour is coming up right here on 101.1 The Answer.
Find us at 1011FM, theanswer.com. Download our apps, stream us 24/7, or watch us at SNC.TV. KDXE, Kamek Village, Little Rock.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rex Thomason. The Pentagon chief says Iran has been cut off from its neighbors and former allies and is losing the war. Secretary of War Hegseth with his latest Iran update this morning.
Today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes. Intelligence more refined and better than ever.
At the same time, Hegseth says Iran's drone and missile launches, while still taking place, continue to decline. Senator Tom Cotton mourns the loss of 7 U.S. military members in the war.
They have not died in vain. This is an absolutely vital and necessary war against a revolutionary terror-supporting country that's been killing Americans for 47 years.
The Arkansas Republican speaking with the Salem Radio Network. A short-term excursion is one way that President Trump is describing the war with Iran. And the president's urging House Republicans to stand firm and stand together on the Save America Act. That's the election integrity bill. It's vigorously opposed by the Democrats.
I don't think we should approve anything until this is approved. And they can't win politically. Look, you have them in a corner, and they're listening to every word I'm saying. It doesn't matter because they can't win it politically. Because when they say we don't want voter identification, we don't want proof of citizenship, all these things are just losers for them.
The president threatening a legislative blockade until the Save America Act clears Congress. Georgia voters going to the polls today. They're choosing a successor to Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. On Wall Street this hour, stocks are higher. The Dow is up about 205 points. The Nasdaq ahead 127, and the S&P is up 23 points. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Hi, Mike Gallagher here, host of the Mike Gallagher Show. As we head into spring, there's some good news in the housing market. Rates have recently dropped. When rates drop, payments can drop. That can mean hundreds of dollars a month back in your pocket, money you can use to pay bills, reduce debt, or strengthen your financial position. That's why this is the time to talk to my friends at Fellowship Home Loans. They're helping homeowners refinance into lower rates and reduce their monthly mortgage payments. Fellowship also offers a fixed rate line of credit for home projects or consolidating a high interest debt with fast approval and a predictable rate. Remember, many people still qualify to skip their next 2 mortgage payments. That's 2 months of breathing room while you reposition financially. I've used Fellowship personally. I trust these guys. Before you make your next move, go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, or call 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-MIKE. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
After 5 members of the Iranian women's soccer team were granted humanitarian visas in Australia, other players were escorted from their hotel for the trip back to Iran.
When a coach pulled up in front of the Royal Pines Hotel here on the Gold Coast, activists waiting outside knew what that meant. The remainder of the football team, those who didn't escape, would be starting their journey home from Australia. There was a heavy police escort as the coach made its way off the premises, with supporters of the players pleading through the windows as the team watched on. There were chants of "Save our girls," and a few people lay down in front of the coach to stop it moving forward. But the federal police intervened, and it went on its way.
The BBC's Katie Watson. The parents of a girl critically wounded in a school shooting in British Columbia, suing ChatGPT maker OpenAI, alleging it knew the shooter was planning a mass attack. OpenAI said it considered but didn't alert police prior to the attack. News and analysis, townhall.com. The Help Wanted sign is out at OSU.
The president of Ohio State University has resigned. Ted Carter Jr.'s announcement was abrupt, saying he made a mistake disclosing what he called an inappropriate relationship with a person who was seeking public resources for her business. Carter came to Ohio State in 2023 from the University of Nebraska system. He's also a former superintendent of the Naval Academy and a retired vice admiral who attended the Navy Fighter Weapons School, known as Top Gun. Carter did not elaborate on the nature of the relationship and whether it was romantic. Ohio State has opened an investigation. I'm Ed Donahue.
The Federal Aviation Administration briefly grounded all JetBlue flights early today, responding to a request from the airline. The ground stop was lifted after roughly 40 minutes. JetBlue says a brief system outage of some sort was resolved, and it has since resumed operations. More on these stories at townhall.com.
What is dedication?
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is Dariana. We call him Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's attention, affection, knowledge. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. The craziest thing was believing that your dad knew everything. So as a dad, you felt like you had to know everything. You had to get everything right. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then, it kind of starts to work itself out. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
We've had problems in America for quite some time as far as people sneaking across the border. And until President Trump took over in the last year, we've had literally thousands of people come into our country, millions during the Biden administration.
20 million.
And for anybody to think that doesn't mean that terrorists weren't taking advantage of that, you're pretty naive.
Do you not remember when he tried to keep him from being able to come over here his first term and they took him to court?
Oh, yeah.
So whatever happens here in America, that's on y'all's heads, Democrats.
Yeah, what's bad is, and I've talked about it, I went down when Bush was president. I went down and broadcast from the King Anvil Ranch there in Arizona, which was at the moment the hot spot for illegals to come across. And I remember sitting there doing the show, and I was in a trailer. I could look out the window, and I could watch the big Sikorsky helicopters. Now, Sikorskys are the ones that have the double blades on top. All right, the big long ones, looks like kind of like the wiener meal flying around. and they would be hovering. And what that usually meant is that they had come across a whole group of illegals that a coyote was bringing across the desert there. And you can still go back to my Facebook and you can view some of that stuff about how they got across the desert and stuff. It's not like the Sahara Desert. It's not sand like that.
Yeah, so it's nothing to them.
It's hard scrabble is what it is. And they would ride bicycles without tires, just the rims, and could get across as they run drugs, get across the border without any problem. So you had a lot of people coming over that we didn't know who they were or who they were affiliated with. I had several gentlemen on with me that were sheriffs along the U.S.-Mexican border, and they talked about finding Qurans, finding prayer rugs, and all kinds of things on the border.
IDs.
And these people were coming into our country. So they're here. Now, if somebody says, well, they've intercepted a message on a text and it wasn't deciphered, it was in code, that doesn't surprise me. This doesn't surprise me. And when I hear that they're worried about, terrorists that are just waiting to hear, like you've seen the movies, if somebody answers the telephone and it says, at the other side says, Allah Akbar. And the person's eyes glaze over and they, yes, master. And they leave. It's not quite like that. But they've got words that trigger things that they've embedded in the people's memories, and they go about doing things. And there's really, when you look at American society, because we're such an open society, places like our water reservoirs. You ever thought about that here in Arkansas? You go driving down.
I drink bottled water.
You could drive down the road and go past where Jennings Osborne used to live, and right behind you can see that big body of water. That's the reservoir. That's drinking water for people here in Little Rock, and they've got a chain link fence around it with a little bit of concertina wire on the top of it, and it's not enough to keep the people away. And I don't know how many people they have that are watching that. Probably not a lot. And you could put something in the water, and they could kill people that way. I mean, that's nothing surprising to talk about. It's just common sense about what's going on. And, being able to access the air conditioning systems and, some of these big buildings and things of that nature. I'm just telling you, it wouldn't take a rocket scientist to plan an attack on them. And it's there. And shame on the politicians that haven't tried to do something about it. I mean, there's some that have fought tooth and nail about this, but they can't get past the Democrats. Democrats block them from doing anything. Oh, well, you can't do that. You might disenfranchise somebody. Well, damn right you might. You might save a lot of lives too. We had some of this happen during the Gulf War. Have you forgotten already that during the Gulf War, the last one, how many, they had that couple out there in California that had all the automatic weapons and turned up and killed a lot of people. They walked into a party of some type. I think it was a Christmas party, if I remember correctly. And they shot a lot of people dead, and then they got away. Nobody was there with a gun to stop them. So they personally mowed down a lot of people, and then they got in their cars and drove away, and they finally caught them. I don't remember what happened to them. I don't remember if they ended up having to kill them or if they did death by cop, suicide by cop, or if they went to trial. I can't remember clearly on that. But those were terrible times. Well, multiply that by about 100 with the people we got in the country now. And thank God we got FBI and now the CIA can look into it as well. They just can't carry out, the operations to bust them. That is left for the FBI to do because the CIA is a covert operation that does its business basically overseas. But because they're doing things overseas, they're getting information about people who are over here that may be planning on doing something against Americans. So they're on the lookout. But you always have to remember this. With the people who are trying to protect us, they got to be right every time to stop something horrible from happening. A terrorist only has to be right once. That's all he's got to be, or her, is right once. And let me tell you, the women that are Islamists are just as radicalized as the men are. They kill you as good as they'd look at you. Something to keep in mind, really is. So when you hear, when Val finds a story like that, it doesn't surprise me. To be honest, I'm surprised that we haven't had more lone wolf terrorists in our country than what we've had.
Yeah.
All right. So the president was speaking Monday, I believe it was, and he was making it sure that everybody understood that Cuba is on the brink of falling apart. In fact, the president said last moments of life. And President Trump said they're in their last moments of life, Bob, Bob Hodge at Red State said President Donald Trump thinks the regime that has kept that country in the 1950s is on life support, which is soon set to expire. They want to make a deal, and so I'm going to put Marco Rubio over there, the president said, and we'll see how that works out. We're really focused on this one right now. We've got plenty of time, but Cuba's ready. After 50 years, he added, explaining that Iran is the current priority. If Trump were able to destroy both these evils in quick succession, it would be absolutely historic. And to both those regimes, I would say good riddance. And I agree. Hundreds upon hundreds of people have been killed in Cuba, just the way they were over in Iran. A Cuban exile, Lou Aguilar, is feeling pretty bullish on this, that if recent history has taught us anything, Trump's predictions tend to happen. I'm also planning to return to Cuba in person, to walk the gorgeous island I toddled as a little boy and to drink Cuba drinks and walk on Veradero Beach where my family vacationed. Once the satanic regime that cursed it is in ashes, for now I'm getting reacquainted with the Cuban heritage I ignored for most of my adult life, the heroes Mom revered, and the music I once enjoyed, in particular, La Pamoa. And, if you've done any reading of history, you know that Cuba was the place to go before Vegas. People went to Cuba to cut loose, and money and alcohol and women flowed easily. Just put it that way. The mob called it an open city, like they call Las Vegas an open city. In other words, everybody can get in there and get something going and get a piece of the action and do that. But if I saw Cuba go down and saw free elections in Cuba, I would be stunned.
Right.
I would be just stunned, because all my life, Fidel Castro, who was the left's darling, the Democrats loved that man, unless they were Cuban, and they stood up for him and called him. That's the first time I ever heard somebody say to me, "Well, Dave, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter." The first time I ever heard that was when talking about Fidel Castro. And he was a murdering SOB.
That's crazy.
Just nuts that they loved him. They actually loved him.
How could you just love someone that? But I mean, look at the Democrats.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Anyway, well, yeah, they just. When you look at the Democrats, I don't see how anybody can say that we're going to give the House back to them after everything that they've done over the last 4 to 6 years. During the time Trump served his first term as a president, and how they lied about him and how they cooked up the dossier about him, and then after he left the presidency, they did their best to put his butt in jail, and on and on. And please don't even come to me and say, "Look they found him guilty of this and this." That you would have the audacity to say, "Yeah, we found that people found him guilty in those kangaroo court trials that you had." Unbelievable to me that you actually believe that crap.
Right.
I mean, really unbelievable. And now you stand, against what we've done in Iran, where just a few years ago you were talking about we need to get rid of Iran. Now the man does it, and because it's Trump that's doing it, all you can do is curse him.
That's crazy. It doesn't matter what he does. Good. They still just find a way to complain.
Yeah, they're on the wrong side of history on all of it. On all of it.
It will
and
show.
There's a lot of you that just go along and because, I don't know, because your mama and daddy voted Democrat, you voted Democrat. Why don't you wake up and think for yourself a little bit and pay attention to what the Democrats have been doing or not doing, like keeping the border closed and things of that nature. 20 after 10, let's get a break here on the Dave Ellswick Show.
The news never stops, and neither does your schedule. That's why we're here, keeping you up to date with all the biggest stories of the day. We're 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. What if you could take 101.1 The Answer with you everywhere? You can. Download the 101.1 The Answer app and stay connected to the voices you trust, live and on demand. Wake up with Dave Ellswick. Stay sharp with Doc Washburn. And hear from national voices like Chris DeGaulle, Scott Jennings, Hugh Hewitt, Larry Elder, and Mike Gallagher. Breaking news, bold opinions, local insight, national perspective, all in one place, all in your pocket. At work, in the car, on the go. If it matters to Arkansas and America, you'll hear it on 101.1 The Answer. Plus, stream us live anywhere. Catch up on podcasts and never miss a moment. Search 101.1 The Answer in your app store and download it today. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
The more you listen to your kids, the closer you'll be. So we asked kids, what do you want your parents to hear?
I feel sometimes that I'm not listened to. I would just want you to listen to me more often and evaluate situations with me and lead me towards success.
We're not adults, so just be there and listen. I just want someone to yap to. And I just feel like I'll be fine if someone just hears me talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
You're doing a really good job. And I don't think I tell you that enough. And I know sometimes we get into it and it's just hard on both of us. But, try to understand me more and I'll try to do the same.
Listening is a form of love. Find resources to help you support your kids and their emotional well-being at sounditouttogether.org. That's sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal.
Without you, this radio station would not exist. Every day we strive to bring you messages of hope, life, and love. Now it's your turn to let us know how we're doing. If we have impacted your life in a positive way, please tell us your story. Call our Impact Hotline at 877-52-FAITH and tell us how the ministries on this radio station have changed your life. If there is ever a time when we need to encourage each other, now might be it. Call our Impact Hotline at 877-52-FAITH.
Don't miss out on the latest news. Operation Epic Fury is here, and we're giving you the inside information. Make sure you're listening for all the details on Operation Epic Fury, right here on 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. You can watch the show right now. The Dave Ellswick Show is streaming live on Facebook. This is 101.1 The Answer.
Okay, so Jesse Jackson Jr. called out former President Obama, former President Biden for hijacking his father's memorial and making it into an anti-Trump political rally. Jesse Jackson Jr. publicly rebuked Obama and Biden for hijacking my father's memorial service to attack President Trump instead of honoring his legacy. Said Jackson Jr., I listened to 3 United States presidents who did not know Jesse Jackson. Bob Hogue at Red State. Out of all of this, I think Obama comes out looking the worst. We already knew that Biden could barely get through a sentence, that Clinton would ramble, and that Kamala would cackle. We've seen Barry divide the country many times before, but it was nonetheless shocking to see just how angry and bitter he has become. Quote, we see science and expertise being destroyed, while ignorance and dishonesty and cruelty and corruption are reaping untold rewards. Every single day we see that, and it's hard to hope, is what Obama said. It was a frankly despicable performance. That's from Red State. Look, to ask me to say something positive about the Reverend Jesse Jackson, I have a hard time, because I grew up with Jesse Jackson and what he was doing in Chicago. And I was there when he was race baiting and was taking money from Operation Breadbasket and a whole lot of things. How do I know about that? I was working for a newspaper at the time, the Chicago Sun, and we were looking at Operation Breadbasket because there were tens of thousands of dollars that had disappeared, and we were trying to figure out where it went. And when we would ask questions of the Jackson people about that, they didn't give us any information. They called us racist. They called us, Klansmen and all kinds of stuff. They just, disregarded what we were saying and that we were the bad people, not them. And I'm just telling you, Jesse Jackson padded his pockets with corporate money. I mean, he would find a company that wasn't giving money to the Rainbow Coalition, and if you didn't give enough, suddenly you'd have protesters out in front of the front door of your business, walking in front of your business, saying how racist you were, and had nothing to do with being racist. It had everything to do with they didn't believe in what Jesse Jackson was doing. And he was using the civil rights movement to pad his pockets. So, I don't have a lot of good things to say. That's why I wouldn't have gone to his funeral. And I wouldn't have asked to speak, because I wouldn't, my mom and dad always said, if you're going to speak about the dead, don't speak ill about them. You speak what's good about them.
And you specifically don't go to a
memorial.
A memorial, talk about politics, and then what did Joe Biden say? I stuttered in high school, and I'm smarter than the most of you out here.
Yeah.
Like what was that about?
You need to. I watched that movie Melania last night about Trump's wife.
Yeah, I watched it too when I got home yesterday. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was boring.
What I really enjoyed was watching Biden when they
went into the inauguration day. Yeah, and Harris too.
Oh,
did you see Harris eyed? What's his daughter? Not Laura. What's the crazy daughter's name? The wild child.
What, one of the Obama girls?
No, Trump's daughter.
Oh,
anyway, when she wedged in there to see him getting, given the oath, and Harris was just looking there like, why are you standing in front of Biden? And I was like, because he ain't president no more.
Yeah, well, it was funny. I mean, you could tell the man didn't know where he was.
He had no clue where he was at.
He really didn't.
He didn't know where he was at the funeral the other day either.
Yeah, they and then when they went out and waited, and the president walked them to the helicopter. So
with the floor things, the things that I were talking about, like the things telling him where to go.
And
none of them need that.
Was amazing as far as that. Anyway, it's a good movie. You should watch it. If you like gold, you should definitely watch it. All right, let's get to the news.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. The Pentagon chief says Iran has been cut off from its neighbors and former allies and is losing the war. Secretary of War Hegseth says today will be the most intense day of strikes inside Iran. At the same time, he says Iran's drone and missile launches, while they are still happening, continue to decline. Senator Tom Cotton mourns the loss of 7 U.S. military members who died in the war. He tells the Salem Radio Network they did not die in vain. President Trump is urging House Republicans to stand firm and stand together on the Save America Act. That's the election integrity bill. It's vigorously opposed by the Democrats. Georgia voters going to the polls today. They're choosing a successor to retiring Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. On Wall Street, the Dow is up 249 points. NASDAQ ahead 138. More details, srnnews.com.
I'm Mike Gallagher here, host of the Mike Gallagher Show. As we head into spring, there's some good news in the housing market. Rates have recently dropped. When rates drop, payments can drop. That can mean hundreds of dollars a month back in your pocket, money you can use to pay bills, reduce debt, or strengthen your financial position. That's why this is the time to talk to my friends at Fellowship Home Loans. They're helping homeowners refinance into lower rates and reduce their monthly mortgage payments. Fellowship also offers a fixed rate line of credit for home projects or consolidating a high interest debt with fast approval and a predictable rate. Remember, many people still qualify to skip their next 2 mortgage payments. That's 2 months of breathing room while you reposition financially. I've used Fellowship personally. I trust these guys. Before you make your next move, go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, or call 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-MIKE. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
As a local business owner, you get called every week by marketing companies. We get it. We have hundreds of satisfied customers. Here's what a satisfied client recently said.
Open enrollment is going great. We're hitting record numbers. Thank you so much for this report. It really is amazing to see how the marketing is really shaping our enrollment around the city.
If you're a local business and ready for the next step, Google Salem Surround Little Rock right now. Our experts are ready to help you take your marketing to the next level. Google Salem Surround Little Rock today.
Did you hear Congressman French Hill on the Dave Ellswick Show?
In the short Israeli-U.S. attack last summer, just gone back into the business of enriching uranium, working on a nuclear bomb, expanding their ballistic missiles, and supporting the Russians killing Ukrainians. You get the picture. And they showed no willingness whatsoever to negotiate over the last few months with Trump's people. So I think Trump said, look, they're not going to quit trying to get a nuclear weapon. And so I think he just thought this was the moment of maximum weakness. In the last year, we have reinstituted the Trump maximum campaign on sanctions. Trump made a commitment he was going to back the Iranian people. History and recent events has led him to the decision he took.
Don't miss Congressman Hill, Wednesday mornings at 7 on the Dave Ellswick Show, 101.1. The Answer. Did you hear Congressman Bruce Westerman on the Dave Ellswick Show?
I've gotten input from constituents about, they don't like this. They don't like endless wars. They don't want Americans dying over there anymore. But the question you got to ask is, what does that mean for the future? You go fight this war right now and you cut the head off of the snake right now, or you wait and the war comes to us, or it's a much bigger war and there's a lot more at risk and at stake in the future. So again, I think this is long overdue, and I think every effort was made to try to do it through negotiations. And I think the history with Iran and the Ayatollah is they negotiate, and they never make a deal. And if they make a deal, it's always to their advantage. And Trump doesn't play like that.
Don't miss Congressman Westerman, Wednesday mornings at 7:30 on the Dave Ellswick Show, 101.1. The Answer.
Methodist Family Health has more than a century of providing the best possible care to those who may need our help. As we move forward through our second century, we are adding another nonprofit behavioral hospital for children and adolescents to our complete continuum of care. No matter the names of our programs, Methodist Children's Behavioral Hospital, Arkansas Cares, Methodist Counseling Clinics, we are all Methodist Family Health. Many names, one care.
Dave Ellswick is the conservative voice of Arkansas, and he's back. 101.1, The Answer.
All right, back with you here on the Dave Ellswick Show. Final half hour of the show for a Tuesday. We'll tomorrow, just to let you know, I've already talked to the people from Congressman Hill's office, And I've already given them the topics that I'll be talking to them about, and then I'll send topics to Congressman Westerman so that we can get him on the air tomorrow. I send them topics just so they can prepare with information that they want to make sure that you know about. And then I always ask them if they have something that they personally are interested in talking about. We'll talk about the SAVE Act tomorrow, although neither one are in the Senate. I mean, all of this now is on the Senate side, and I wish Thune would move ahead with this. I don't know why they're waiting on this. I think it's a bad mistake not to make sure that this piece of legislation gets through.
I was very astonished that a couple of senators weren't for it, like Boozman. Why would he not be for that?
I don't know. We'd have to get him on the air and ask him.
Trying. He's a busy man.
We can try to figure it out. Well, next time you talk to him, ask that say that want to find out why he's against the SAVE Act, and maybe we don't need him for a half hour. We only need him for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
that's all we need him. Just a quick hit and be done with it. But I mean, I understand. I mean, he's the head of the Ag Committee. There's a lot going on with that for farmers here in the country. So,
speaking of what's going on, have you seen the weather? I know Jim Cantore, and if you know anything about weather, Jim Cantore, when he speaks, you better listen. Because 48 hours or so of active thunderstorms with each day featuring dual tornado risk areas. And we are in a number 2 zone.
Okay. It doesn't surprise me.
No, it's that time of year.
And it's way beyond warm. It's been hot.
I went outside the other night when it started being windy, right before it started raining. And it was like midnight, I guess it was, maybe Friday, I guess it was. And I was walking the dogs and I texted the boys and I was like, all right, y'all, this wind is eerie. So just be alert. Middle of the night, tornadoes. Right. The next day, they said there may be a tornado warning. And then there was tornadoes, I think, in Nevada County that tore up some stuff. And I was just like, man, it was eerie out.
Well, it was crazy this morning because I got up. I ate breakfast. I took my pills, took my shot of insulin and all of that. And then I brought up the weather. And it popped up to tell me what the temperature. It was 70 degrees.
I know, me too, because I was going to go outside and walk the dogs, and I didn't want to be cold. But
degrees.
I was suffocating. I had
before 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it was hot.
That's incredible.
That's tornado weather for you.
And that's when you start getting weather starts hopping and popping.
Or as I said when I was at ASU on the ASU TV, tornadoes. I can't believe I said tornadoes. My kids videoed. I was like, I don't know where that came from. I'm not even from here. Like I grew up in St. Louis, I would say tornadoes. My kids still have that video somewhere because they were watching.
I bet they loved watching that.
Oh, I didn't hear the end of it when I got home. Oh. Tornadoes, huh, Mom?
Well, it's like when tornadoes strike around here, why do they always go to a trailer park to talk to the people about a tornado?
Right, because they should be evacuated if there's a tornado.
That's probably the most unsafe place.
Right?
That's a tornado magnet.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
I always think of King of the Hill when Hank's losing his britches. Remember that one?
Yeah.
When they were in there down in the storm cellar.
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it's we are and weather could change drastically quickly. Today it's not supposed to be so bad.
No.
Tomorrow. But
that was 4 hours ago that he posted that. That's why I thought, well, I'll say something.
According to my weather, it's 72 right now. It's saying that we're going to have rain in about 15 minutes here in Little Rock. And I'm looking at it here. Let me see what we got here. Today is the 10th. But it's just calling for a little bit of rain. It says rain probability through the day is only about 25%. Tonight It's 55% with about a half an inch of rain being forecast. Going into Wednesday, is high of 71 and an inch of rain during the day. And then as far as nighttime goes, the rain should be done. So tonight and tomorrow morning is when we're going to get our worst weather.
So we're in both tonight and tomorrow. We're in number 2, level 2 for the risk. It goes up to 4, and then we're right on the cusp of level 4 tomorrow. So the outer band there is southeast of us. So you never know. It could still,
Yeah, during this time, I always tell my wife to always be prepared. I mean, we've got the safe room in the garage that we go to, and they tell me it will withstand a EF5. I don't want to find out.
No.
But the bottom line is, I told her if we ever get hit and we're in our safe that we've got, when you open up the door, don't expect to see much.
Let me tell you,
to be scattered everywhere.
Oh, let me tell you, when I was in Florida, and that's the thing about Florida, at least you get a couple of days. It's a lot worse and it lasts a lot longer, but at least you get a couple of days. However, when there's tornadoes, 2 years ago, I had one go, and I slipped right through it, though. This is what's crazy. And you could see the path where it had taken went behind my house, right behind my back door, right up to the side of my house, across the street, and then hopped over to the next street over and took off the top of a house over there, the roof. Well, and I was just like, what?
They are really weird weather phenomena. We've all heard of, a piece of straw being put through a tree, and, people who had Coke sitting out on their kitchen table and all the Coke is gone and the bottle's full of sand.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Things and it's all about air pressure.
Yeah.
At that point.
But it's wild to wake up and think, wow, that literally went by my window.
If you've ever gone through one close, you don't want to go through another one.
No.
It does. It sounds like a big old freight train.
I slept through it though.
You were tired.
I guess my mom said I sleep through a tornado, but she was actually right.
Yeah, I've slept through thunderstorms that woke the whole house up. I mean, the ones that got the thunder that shakes the house and all that. And everybody says, how did you sleep through that? And I said,
like a baby.
Yeah.
I sleep better when it rains.
Like a dead man. That's what I always say.
But I'll wake up to my dog.
No. They're licking at you.
But I won't wake up for a tornado.
They're licking at you.
No, not at me. At himself. Ooh.
Yeah, okay. So I get calls. The whole thing about, I've got it on my phone. So my phone sends out that tone and I hear it, and it wakes me up if I'm asleep as far as that, because hearing the sirens, I can be wide awake and sitting in my living room.
Still not here because we tune them out.
And I can't hear them.
Yeah. Oh, I tune them out.
I can't hear them. I mean, if you're sitting right under one, you're not going to ignore it. It's loud.
Right.
But if you're a couple blocks away and it's got that cone on it that turns around and all that, it's better than nothing, but it's not much better.
Yeah.
Just put it as far as I'm concerned. All right. So rain tomorrow. It's going to be cloudy and some rain in the morning. Then the 12th, 13th, and 14th, and that's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Sunny skies, and Saturday I'm going to see Banana Ball. I'm looking forward to this. Sunny skies, 81 degrees.
Man, that's going to be awesome.
I'm going to put on my
where you go, the lake.
My sunscreen on my head. That's
I haven't been to the lake in a few years.
Yeah, 81 degrees, so that'll be fun. And then partly cloudy on Sunday for you who are going Sunday to see Banana Ball, 78 degrees.
That's awesome.
That's going to be an all-day affair because there's a plaza party that happens before the ball game. Starts at 3:30. The gates don't open to the ballpark to 5:30, and the game doesn't start until 7.
Yeah, nice.
So it's going to be an all-day affair. My wife is going to be I want to go home. I want to go to
I'm
bed.
so jelly.
You know, I'm tired. Kind of thing. So anyway, but high, the low for this week is going to happen on tomorrow. We're only supposed to have a high of 63 degrees. And then Friday, 74. And don't forget, I'm not here.
Yep. Friday, I've got Brian Norris.
I take it back. I am here Friday. I'm not here Monday.
I thought you said Friday.
I thought I did too, but I took the 16th. So that's Monday.
Oh, well.
So you'll be filling for me Monday.
Well, Friday, we have Colt Shelby coming.
Okay.
And Brian Norris.
Okay.
So
I'll be around. So we got 74 for a high on Friday, 81 for a high on Saturday. And if it's going to be just pure sunshine, expect it to be higher than 81. Sun to heat it up to where it's 83, 84. And then Sunday, 78. Monday, partly cloudy and 52 degrees. 57 on Tuesday, 65, 75 on Friday, 78, 81 on Saturday. So we're definitely hitting a very spring-like time.
Getting some spring in my step.
And I noticed yesterday as I was driving home, the trees are turning green.
My nose already noticed
budding.
it.
You know, they're budding well. The white ones, they kill me.
Yeah, me too. I think they pretty much kill everybody. I have to dose up on my
I took a double hit this morning of allergy medicine.
I feel like an allergy drug addict.
Because I felt I couldn't even breathe this morning when I woke up.
That's how I was too.
So
I think it's everybody.
Expect that. All right, we got to get a break in. Let's get the final break for this show on, and then we'll be back to finish it up for a Tuesday here on the Dave Ellswick Show.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council. We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
When I met both of them, it was like my missing pieces were found. It was just like an instant, these are my kids. If you're considering adopting a teen, just do it. Kids need families. I don't care the age. Everybody deserves a family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Hey, this is Doc Washburn. I'm excited to be back on the air in Little Rock. I'm on 4 to 6 p.m. weekdays right here on 101.1 The Answer. And you never know who'll be calling in. I did not smoke cigars with that young woman, Miss Lewinsky. Not yet, Bill. The Doc Washburn Show returns to Little Rock, thanks to Tammy Chase Insurance, Arkansas Upper Cervical Center, and the Lord who opened the door. 4 to 6 p.m. weekdays on 101.1 The Answer.
America is at a tipping point. To ensure we stay the land of the free and home of the brave, you need to be informed and engaged. That's why we're here. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. We bring you the biggest news stories of the day, Not to tell you what to think, but to allow you to have the most information so you can make up your mind. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Now, back to the Dave Ellswick Show. 101.1 The Answer.
All right, back with you. We got some crazy stuff going on right now. Everybody knows that Noem is leaving as DHS secretary. And now the Minnesota governor, Walz, is threatening to hold up the hearings on her replacement, Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma. And it's two Democratic sanctuary state governors saying they won't let Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem quietly shift into her new diplomatic role after a year of turbulent immigration enforcement operations in their states. Trump announced his intention to replace Noem with Mullen and transition her into a new role as the special envoy for the Shield of the Americas, becoming part of a coalition of Latin American countries, the president announced Saturday, that will collaborate on drug cartel crime interdiction. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, and that fat SOB, I can't stand him. I just can't even stand him. Posted a video statement about Noem, and he ended up by saying, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Here's what your legacy is: corruption and chaos, parents and children tear gassed, moms and nurses, U.S. citizens getting shot in the face. Unbelievable. Now that you're gone, don't think you get to just walk away, Pritzker said. But Pritzker, same thing would be with you.
What do you want? Like, what do you want from
He wants to be president.
Oh, never.
That's what Pritzker wants. He wants to be president, but I don't think he could get through a magnetic imaging machine. He's so fat. The guy is disgusting. He weighs about 425.
He's gross.
You know?
Oh, Chicago's great. Oh, yeah, where your yacht is.
Yeah. He says, I guarantee you will still be held accountable. When asked for more specifics on what his comment meant and whether it presaged future investigations or hearings in Springfield to which Noem would be subpoenaed, his office shared a fuller statement with Fox that alluded to such consequences. Quote, from excessive use of force near homes, schools, and hospitals to tear gassing entire neighborhoods, Kristi Noem oversaw the use of military-style tactics against our own citizens and neighbors. It is long past time she steps down from her role, but we cannot ever let that excuse her from justice or accountability. Illinois will continue demanding answers and exposing the unacceptable conduct harming Americans. I'll tell you what, Pritzker. We'll put Noem on trial when you put that idiot from the CDC on trial, who lied to us all the way through, the COVID BS.
Put Fauci up there.
Yeah, put Fauci up there. Yeah, do that, and let's see all of his holdings in Chinese companies.
Yeah, let's see all of y'all's, every one of them.
Bring it on.
Hey, did you see this? Somebody just sent me this. My Arthur Weinrab. He's the retired assistant from the Canada Free Press. Shots fired at U.S. consulate in Toronto. Someone fired shots at the U.S. consulate in Toronto early Tuesday morning, authorities said, though there were no reports of injuries or damage. The shooting that took place at U.S. consulate early this morning is an absolute unacceptable act of violence and intimidation aimed at our American friends and neighbors, Ontario Premier Doug Ford said in a social media post. Oh, now we're friends? Now we're neighbors? Doug? Yeah, he was like, I'm taking Trump down. Yeah, you got told.
Yeah, it's silly. It is. It really is silly.
But I thought Canada couldn't have any guns.
and the Democrats are just the worst about this whole thing.
They want to talk about how we have shootings all the time here. Canada is one of, and then the Rihanna house got shot at Sunday.
And some lady with an AR-15.
Crazy, and the most craziest gun laws. How did she get that AR into there? She was from Florida. How did she get an AR? That's just crazy. And now Canada, again, crazy gun laws there. They're not supposed to have guns. And says no information was available about a motive or any potential suspect. The police said in a social media post there were no reports of injuries or property damage, according to the police. Well, anywho. The shooting came just days after 2 synagogues were hit by overnight gunfire in the greater Toronto area, prompting an increased police presence. Somebody's out for, that sounds like Iran.
Well, don't be surprised if we don't have more of this stuff. I expect it. And I expected to, after being in the military and going through the training I went through, I'm surprised that we haven't had more of it. I thought we'd have a lot more of it during the...
Well, we intercepted that message.
the Iraqi war. I'm surprised that we didn't have more going on here by Iran at that point. They were helping.
But we intercepted the message that was supposed to go out to them.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean there's not another one. That doesn't mean they're not hearing the headlines about that now and going to start doing it.
No, who knows? I know it doesn't.
Which is why I hate reporting stuff like that. I hate reporting it because then they hear it and they're like, oh, we should have done it a long time ago, a couple of days ago, and then they start their nonsense.
Well, to be honest, like I said, we talked about that earlier in the show, and it's been something that the military has known. They've taken it to local police departments so they would know about it, and they're keeping their eyes open.
Just be aware. Citizens should too. If you see something, say something.
Just understand that the people who are hired to protect us have to be right every time. A terrorist only has to be right once time.
Right.
That's all they got to be is.
And don't be afraid to call in anything you see that is crazy or abnormal.
Yeah, it looks strange. If you see couple of guys with, towels on their heads and
they got a bomb.
It looks like they got semi-automatic guns in their hands. I would probably call the police. Yeah. All right. Time for me to get out of here. I appreciate you being part of the show today here on the Dave Ellswick Show. I'll be back with you tomorrow. See you on the radio at 7 a.m.
This is the Dave Ellswick Show. Find him on Twitter and on Facebook at Dave Ellswick Show. Dave Ellswick Show.
Find us at 1011fmtheanswer.com. Download our app, stream us 24/7, or watch us at snc.tv. KDXE, Kamek Village, Little Rock.
News. Yep, I'm ready. Let me get some stopwatch here.